12 lightning spears erased the army sent to kill Jiang Chen. The rich heirs expected a commoner to die, not thunder. He organized the ambush and hid behind everyone else. Jiang Chen had no family backing. Mercy would not save him. His real edge was an upgrade path powered by spirit stones. It could turn a basic hero token into a legendary summon. 12 goddess warriors hurled lightning javelins across the field. 41 enemy lords would die, his side barely bled. Each goddess warrior locked her short spears together, and the weapon stretched into a crackling lance wrapped in thunder. The Empress watched the formation and admitted that 12 direct hits would leave even her only a small chance to survive. When the weapons flew, they did not behave like thrown metal. They became streaking thunder dragons that tore straight through formation lines. Soldiers vanished from the paths, heroes were blown aside, and every lane of impact became a smoking scar across the field. He had chosen the rear because he believed distance meant safety. Yet one spear still reached him with power to spare. The weakened javelin punched through his chest so completely that his attempt at final words ended before a sentence could form. That death broke the army's nerve faster than any speech from Jiang Chen could have managed. Survivors begged, threatened him with family retaliation, or offered ransom they no longer had after spending everything on the attack. One young woman even tried bargaining with money and herself. But Jiang Chen saw no reason to trust people who came to kill him. Had their positions been reversed, a commoner with no backing would never have received mercy from those family heirs. So Jiang Chen made the decision once. Nobody involved in the ambush would leave the battlefield to organize another one. Cynthia extended a hand, and the thunder spear buried hundreds of meters away vanished back into her grip through spatial recall. The other goddess warriors recovered their weapons the same way, then spread out to finish the remaining resistance. Jiang Chen barely had time to watch before his communication panel started flashing with messages from Chu Weixia. She demanded to know where he was, whether he was hurt, and why he refused to answer while death announcements filled the channel. Every fallen lord generated a public notification, so the regional chat was receiving Jiang Chen's kill list in real time. The room that had been discussing hero rankings and future mayor candidates abruptly became silent after the first cluster of names. Then another notification appeared, followed by another, until even people who disliked Jiang Chen started asking what kind of battle was happening. The number kept rising, and the chat finally landed on the explanation everyone feared most: Bloodlord. Bloodlords gained power by hunting other lords, which made them profitable, hated, and immediate targets for government bounties. Jiang Chen's background made the rumor sound believable to strangers. Orphaned, poor, unattached, and suddenly surrounded by dead competitors. The theory only lasted until people who knew the ambush explained that He had spent himself broke organizing a revenge squad. The rumor carried weight because Rookie Society already sorted lords into recognizable paths based on how they developed. Entertainment lords invested in restaurants, attractions, and services, turning territory comfort into long-term wealth instead of direct violence. Farming-oriented lords buried their land under production buildings and defensive towers, sometimes to an almost obsessive degree. One famous example had accumulated millions of towers over years, which Jiang Chen privately considered less strategy and more unresolved anxiety. Warlords took the opposite approach and treated combat records as their entire profession. Historic names like Hanshin and Wokubing represented the admired version of that path, brutal expansion backed by military competence. Bloodlords were different because their progression depended on killing other lords instead of competing through normal development. That made every murder profitable, but also turned the killer into a public enemy once authorities confirmed the pattern. A single revenge battle did not legally make Jiang Chen a bloodlord, yet 41 notifications in minutes looked terrible without context. Some players started leaving the channel rather than risk saying the wrong thing, while Jiang Chen was apparently still killing people. Others speculated that his lack of living family made him psychologically perfect for the path, treating personal tragedy like a character build. Jiang Chen would later find that insulting. But during the fight, he did not even see most of the comments. Chu Weixia was the loudest voice defending him and threatened anyone who tried to exploit the chaos around the battle. Someone reminded her that Jiang Chen appeared to be the dangerous person in the situation, which did nothing to reduce her concern. Ying Man's response was colder and more useful. If He organized the attack, the death belonged to the attacker's decision. Li Mu's gratitude added another strange layer, because he had fought Jiang Chen only a day earlier and now considered survival a personal favor. The contrast between those reactions mattered to Jiang Chen later, when he decided which rivals could become neighbors instead of future loot. By the time the chat reconstructed the ambush, the Bloodlord panic weakened without disappearing completely. 41 dead lords still created political consequences, even when the battle itself could be justified. Jiang Chen understood that every future victory now needed enough strength behind it to survive both battlefield enemies and the stories told afterward. Tushan Yaya insisted Jiang Chen was gentle, a description that became unintentionally funny while fresh death notices still rolled past. Ying Man was less sentimental. If the ambush story was true, she considered the attackers responsible for their own ending. Even Li Mu, who had fought Jiang Chen the previous day, publicly thanked him for being spared during their earlier conflict. When the count finally stopped, 41 lords were dead, and the regional channel had no useful response left. Chu Weixia cared about only one fact: Jiang Chen was alive, and to her that mattered more than the fate of the people who attacked him. The battlefield reward made the massacre even more dangerous from a moral perspective, because dead lords dropped enormous amounts of energy. Jiang Chen collected roughly 460,000 energy, enough to understand immediately why some people chose the Bloodlord path. He did not plan to become one, but he also refused to pretend that the payout was anything less than absurd. His first practical move was exactly on brand. Instead of brooding, he built a smelting factory and pushed it to level 2. Only after spending the new resources did he finally answer Chu Weixia and tell her the battle was handled. She asked how many casualties he suffered, and Jiang Chen had to think, because the answer was almost embarrassing. One farmer had taken an arrow through the arm. Compared with 41 dead enemy lords, that barely qualified as a casualty report. He gave Chu Weixia a carefully edited version, saying the losses were manageable, without explaining just how one-sided the fight had been. Her next concern was Blue Star, where the family behind those dead heirs could use influence that Jiang Chen did not possess. Jiang Chen pointed out the one advantage of having almost nothing there. No parents, siblings, estate, or political base existed for them to threaten. Inside the battlefield, his growth rate was moving so quickly that he believed those families had more reason to fear him later. Then he remembered the surveillance hawk that had been circling his territory during the confrontation. The Empress could not trace the owner through the creature, so Jiang Chen chose the simpler response and told Cynthia to erase it. A thunder spear reached the hawk high above the ground and turned the spy into a red cloud before it could escape. Jiang Chen posted one short message in regional chat, calling the incident a small punishment that would not happen twice. Most readers assumed he meant the 41 deaths, but Lin Hemo understood that the warning was aimed directly at him. His hero Garcia had watched the goddess warriors and recognized strength far beyond ordinary rookie troops, making this destroyed hawk even more painful. With the battlefield secure, Jiang Chen reassigned the new gold deposit and left Cynthia with half the goddess warriors to guard it. He portaled home with the rest. Where the first crisis was surprisingly ordinary, the Empress was hungry, and so was he. They had skipped lunch between gambling, the ambush, and the cleanup, so Jiang Chen finally sat down with 6 warriors for a late meal. The table looked poor, but the ingredients did not. Epic gray dragon tooth rice and meat from a legendary monster beast. Jiang Chen already knew the rice improved the body, but the legendary meat had never been tested on him before. One bite added 8 body, 4 spirit, and 4 soul points. 16 total stats from food cooked over a basic fire. That result immediately changed how Jiang Chen looked at the kitchen blueprint sitting unused in his inventory. If crude cooking produced that much growth, an upgraded kitchen and a real chef could turn meals into another progression system. The Empress gained less from the same ingredient, while Giselle still earned 2 body points and visibly enjoyed the food. The difference suggested ingredients scaled unevenly by individual strength, but the meal was valuable enough that nobody complained. Then Jiang Chen noticed the supply problem. Only about 150 units of legendary meat remained, and dinner had already consumed 10. His eyes drifted toward Dragon 9 before his conscience caught up, with the calculation forming in his head. Dragon 9 was legendary, enormous loyal, and technically made of exactly the category of meat Jiang Chen wanted more of. She looked at him with complete trust and asked whether she could have a piece from the table. The thought died instantly. Jiang Chen threw her the largest chunk he could find and decided some resources were not resources. Dragon 9 swallowed it whole, then asked for another because the first piece was barely large enough to notice against her teeth. Jiang Chen ordered her to chew, only to realize her head was roughly the size of a small house, and her complaint was reasonable. The Empress mentioned that dragons could assume human form after reaching level 20, which made Dragon 9 immediately curious about her future appearance. 9 shyly hoped she would be half as beautiful as the Empress, and Jiang Chen mentally retired every joke about turning the dragon into dinner. The peaceful meal ended when a Heavenly Dao announcement opened the next stage of territory rankings. The first lord to reach level 2 would receive an outstanding chest, while the next placements earned progressively lower rewards. Jiang Chen had already upgraded the previous day, so he knew the result before the regional channel finished arguing about favorites. Wei Ming tried to organize a betting pool, while Tushan Yaya immediately chose Jiang Chen because betting on him had already made her money. Wei Ming secretly believed he had a chance after using an iron mine Jiang Chen helped clear, but the announcement arrived before bets opened. First place went to Jiang Chen with an outstanding chest and 100 reputation points. Ying Man took second, and Wei Ming landed third, respectable enough to save his pride but not enough to hide the disappointment. The timing shocked ordinary lords because reaching level 2 within 3 days was already considered elite progress. 3 people in their town had done it in roughly half that time, turning the local rookie pool into a nightmare for anyone chasing rankings. Jiang Chen was more interested in the second notification that appeared, because his reputation had crossed 300 points. The system classified him as somewhat famous within the county and announced that a merchant caravan was traveling toward his territory. High reputation could bring merchants directly to a lord, instead of forcing the lord to search for them, and rare inventories sometimes followed. Jiang Chen did not care much about buying finished epic gear. He wanted blueprints, techniques, and strange tools that his upgrade ability could exploit. Before he could plan the shopping list, the Heavenly Dao created another special event for Town 10,086. Their average troop quality was so high that the system opened a total troop power ranking with an epic chest for first place. The score counted combined combat power across every soldier, meaning mass recruitment mattered as much as individual quality. Ordinary lords immediately saw a loophole and began spamming cheap militia because fresh recruits gave more power per energy than leveling veterans. Jiang Chen saw the same rule and reached the opposite conclusion. If everyone else spammed common troops, he would spam outstanding troops. The Celestial Sound Pavilion was not finished yet, but once it came online, its disciples could turn the ranking into a completely different contest. He sent an urgent order to the gold mine. Production would continue until the territory had 1,000 units of gold. Farmer 1 accepted the overtime without complaint, promising to finish even if the work dropped him where he stood. Across the map, Ying Man was preparing with the same intensity because losing to Jiang Chen repeatedly had become a personal problem. She had reached level 2 on the first day, used epic farmers to rush her own iron mine, and still watched Jiang Chen take first. Her advisor Meng Tian could not reconcile that speed with Jiang Chen's public identity as an ordinary commoner. Ying Man half-seriously wondered whether he was an illegitimate child from some hidden royal family. The theory was wrong, but it showed how impossible his development looked from the outside. When the new troop ranking appeared, Ying Man decided she would not rely only on her existing epic squads. She ordered cheap troop production as insurance, even after Meng Tian argued that an epic chest did not justify wasting that much development. Ying Man ended the debate by invoking her father's reputation, because losing publicly also reflected on the first emperor's household. That was enough to make Meng Tian stop arguing and start helping. Then Ying Man remembered a different unfinished matter. Jiang Chen had promised to sell her equipment that evening. He had completely forgotten, so her sudden video call caught him before he could prepare a convincing excuse. Jiang Chen recovered quickly, claimed he had been finalizing inventory, and sent over the catalog before she could press harder. Ying Man first asked about the massacre, not the merchandise, because 41 dead lords made one question unavoidable. She believed Chu Weishi's explanation but wanted proof Jiang Chen had not deliberately entered the Bloodlord path. Jiang Chen sent the recording of He Qi surrounding him and provoking the fight before the first attack. After watching it, Ying Man concluded that Jiang Chen had baited greedy enemies, but they had still chosen to take that bait themselves. With the moral question settled, she immediately switched to business and asked to see everything he could not use. Jiang Chen offered 36 pieces of equipment, including 7 outstanding pieces around levels 8 through 10. His dragons could not wear normal armor. The goddess warriors carried innate divine weapons, and his centaurs had narrow weapon preferences. To him, the stock was dead inventory. To Ying Man, it was a ready-made arsenal unavailable to most rookies. She offered 2 million spirit stones, comfortably above what Jiang Chen believed the open market could support. He accepted before she could reconsider, once again discovering that negotiating with someone offensively rich could be extremely relaxing. Before ending the call, Ying Man casually asked him to contact her if he ever found epic tiger meat. The hint was transparent enough for Jiang Chen to realize she probably connected him to the missing epic tiger near Chusha's territory. He had no interest in confirming the suspicion, especially when a fresh 2 million stones were already demanding to be spent. Jiang Chen spent almost all of that money immediately on an upgraded kitchen blueprint called the Drunken Immortal Pavilion. The epic restaurant required roughly 1,800,000 stones between the blueprint and materials, leaving him nearly broke again. Construction needed 8 hours, so for once he resisted paying for instant completion and went to sleep while the building finished overnight. By morning, a 20-meter pavilion stood in his territory with golden roofing, jade walls, dragon pillars, and spiritual mist curling around the structure. Its scale alone made Jiang Chen's original settlement look as if someone had dropped a palace into a work camp. The building came fully staffed with manager Wang Kai, an epic brewmaster, and 30 waiters. It held private rooms, large dining halls, and enough seating for 700 guests, far beyond what Jiang Chen personally needed. The real value was hidden in the bonuses. Immortal's drink could raise all stats by 50% for 10 minutes. Its kitchen carried recipes from multiple races, and Divine Chef's blessing increased flavor and improved stat gains from ingredients up to epic quality. The top floor also contained a spirit gathering room, with 5 times normal energy density, making the restaurant useful even when nobody was eating. Jiang Chen joked that one building could support an entertainment lord's entire career, then saw the upgrade cost and immediately stopped laughing. Wang Kai greeted him formally, and Jiang Chen liked the manager even more after noticing that the man's name sounded suspiciously like getting rich. He handed over legendary ingredients and ordered breakfast for himself, the Empress, and 2 off-duty goddess warriors. Wang Kai's loyalty jumped the moment he saw what kind of food his new lord casually kept in storage. Half an hour later, the same dragon rice and tiger meat that had been crude campfire food returned as a full epic restaurant meal. The difference was enormous. Jiang Chen gained 7 body, 7 and 7 soul points from one prepared dish. Amanda ate so enthusiastically that she insulted Giselle's cooking without realizing Giselle might eventually hear about it. Before breakfast ended, Dragon 9's giant head appeared outside the upper floor window with a scouting report. The patrols had discovered neighboring lord territories, which Jiang Chen expected after sending fast units dozens of kilometers from home. What he did not expect was Nine's embarrassed admission that Giselle had already captured one of those neighbors. Jiang Chen had ordered exploration, not kidnapping, but apparently his soldiers had found the distinction too subtle. The unlucky neighbor was Wei Ming, whose hero Eva had discovered what looked like an undefended second iron mine. Only one outstanding centaur guarded it, and Wei Ming mistook the small security detail for weakness instead of confidence. He sent rare gladiators forward, watched one die almost immediately, and finally recognized the centaur type guarding the deposit. There was only one local lord known for using outstanding centaurs casually, and Wei Ming had spent the previous night watching that lord kill 41 attackers. He tried to stop the fight, but Giselle arrived before the message reached everyone and dismantled the remaining troops with almost insulting speed. Then she grabbed Wei Ming and carried him back to Jiang Chen's territory because he claimed to know her lord. Standing in front of Jiang Chen, Wei Ming blamed the attack on his own hero so quickly that Eva became collateral damage in the conversation. Jiang Chen said nothing for several seconds and let Wei Ming's imagination work harder than any threat could. The silence became worse when Wei Ming looked at Giselle and assumed she had to be the Empress, Jiang Chen's famous top-ranked hero. Amanda ruined that assumption by calling Giselle by name and dragging her toward breakfast. Wei Ming finally understood that the woman who had crushed his army was not Jiang Chen's hero at all, but one regular goddess warrior. That realization changed his attitude from nervous diplomacy to total surrender. He declared the iron mine Jiang Chen's property, offered guards, promised information on high-level bosses, and stopped mentioning ownership entirely. Jiang Chen let him leave because the clash had been a genuine misunderstanding, then gave him leftover side dishes from breakfast. Those leftovers granted a major temporary spiritual affinity bonus, making Wei Ming value the apology gift more than Jiang Chen valued the entire dispute. Afterward, Jiang Chen noticed something about himself that was less funny. For one moment, he had considered Wei Ming mainly as potential energy income. Power and easy rewards were changing his instincts, so he deliberately chose not to turn every irritation into another corpse. The next useful report came from the eastern jungle, where the goddess warriors had located a crystal mine about 27 kilometers away. Level 15 to 18 predators filled the forest, and the trees were too dense for Jiang Chen's dragons to operate comfortably. Amanda was already fighting the local outstanding boss, a 20-meter jungle slaughterer snake above her own level. The numerical advantage meant almost nothing once she closed distance. Amanda battered the creature down and launched it airborne with the finishing strike. Jiang Chen left her to guard the crystal mine, then had Abigail drag the massive corpse back through the forest. Farmer 2, his newest legendary farmer, processed the snake with Divine Farmer's enhanced yield and quality bonuses. The result included epic snake meat and outstanding materials that went directly to the drunken immortal pavilion rather than the market. Jiang Chen ordered Wang Kai to prepare dragon Taisher stew for lunch, then returned to the resource project that mattered most. The gold mine finally delivered its 1,000th unit, allowing Jiang Chen to finish converting enough material into star gold. 10 seconds after the last conversion completed, every requirement for the Celestial Sound Pavilion was finally in place. Jiang ordered construction and watched a structure, larger than the restaurant, rise from the ground in a burst of system light. Then he saw the normal build time, 3 days. 3 days was longer than his patience. So 43,200 spirit stones disappeared and the pavilion finished immediately. That purchase triggered a direct upgrade to the Empress, granting her the epic title Holy Master of Celestial Sound. Her overall stats rose by 30%, pushing her combat power beyond 300 stars while she was only level 10. The pavilion itself was more school than barracks, with meditation rooms, energy room, training halls, and a 9-floor trial tower. Outstanding Celestial Sound disciples could challenge that tower and promote into epic true disciples if they succeeded. The default techniques were only moderate quality, which looked like the building's first real weakness until the Empress gained a new skill. Teaching and enlightenment made every technique she personally learned available to the pavilion's disciples. One powerful skill book given to the Empress could therefore become knowledge shared across an entire troop type without buying duplicate copies. Jiang Chen immediately saw the long-term abuse. One top-tier cultivation method could become the standard curriculum for hundreds of soldiers. The pavilion turned the Empress from a single powerful hero into the central instructor of a military academy. The system also revealed why the structure behaved so strangely. The Empress and her associated forces originated from another dimension. Their techniques were not normal battlefield inheritances, so the Heavenly Tao classified the new soldiers as something genuinely created. A notification confirmed that Jiang Chen had created a new outstanding troop type called the Celestial Sound Disciple. He could announce the achievement across the entire 7th heaven, Zone 666, Blue Star Domain. The reward would be 10,000 reputation and 100 legend points, enough to make the decision obvious in principle. Jiang Chen still refused to announce immediately because the troop power ranking had not closed yet. If every competitor learned he could mass recruit outstanding troops, most would stop wasting resources. But Ying Man would do the opposite. She would likely liquidate everything and force an arms race, simply because losing peacefully was not part of her personality. Jiang Chen preferred a cleaner outcome where he took first, Ying Man took second, and neither burned resources for no reason. So he saved the global announcement for after the ranking and opened the pavilion's recruitment menu instead. A 9 Celestial Maiden cost 5,000 food and 10,000 energy, while an outstanding disciple cost 800 food and 2,000 energy. The energy from the previous massacre became military capital, a fact Jiang Chen appreciated without pretending it was morally elegant. His first legendary recruit emerged after 10 minutes, a graceful woman named Fanning Tian dressed in palace robes similar to the Empress. At level 1, she already carried 28 stars of combat power, slightly above the Empress's original starting value. Then Fanning Tian saw the Empress and reacted with 2 years of relief compressed into one greeting. The Empress had only been in the battlefield for 2 days, but 2 full years had passed in the dimension they came from. When she asked whether they could ever return, Jiang Chen had absolutely no real answer. He survived the moment by borrowing grand language from years of web novels and claiming time naturally flowed differently near the origin of worlds. The Empress accepted the explanation with embarrassing seriousness, which encouraged Jiang Chen to keep his expression much wiser than he felt. A second maiden arrived before she could ask for technical details, saving him from having to improvise interdimensional physics. One by one, all 9 celestial maidens were recruited and reunited with their Empress after what had felt like years to them. Jiang Chen raised every maiden to level 5, burning roughly 279,000 energy in seconds. Each of them passed 100 stars of combat power at that level, already stronger than his higher-level goddess warriors in raw rating. He sent the maidens out hunting level 15 monsters, while he focused on the troop ranking's real requirement, scale. Jiang Chen sat in the dirt doing recruitment math on energy cost, leveling expense, regeneration, population limits, housing, and hunting returns. The Empress asked what he was doing, and Jiang Chen solemnly called it territory mathematics, as if it were an official discipline. She respected the answer enough to gain another affection point, bringing their relationship closer to the maximum value. The calculations showed that mass recruits could be raised efficiently to level 3 without draining the territory dry. By nightfall, 80 celestial sound disciples had joined, leveled to 3, and deployed in pairs to hunt within 10 kilometers. Jiang Chen's base no longer looked like a rookie settlement. It looked like a disciplined military school that happened to be full of terrifying women. That evening, the merchant caravan finally arrived, with dozens of carts and nearly 100 guards from the county capital. Their manager Tian Ding represented the Tian family trading company and immediately recognized Jiang Chen from his string of rookie rankings. The conversation also gave Jiang Chen one useful piece of geography. Their larger region was called Xinjiang County. Tian Ding presented a catalog containing hundreds of products, most of which Jiang Chen ignored because normal finished equipment did not interest him. 3 E-rank territory advancement talismans did interest him, because each could improve his weak F-rank lord talent. He bought all 3 for 10,000 spirit stones each, then moved directly into the technique section. The caravan carried 23 manuals, from simple combat skills to breathing methods and elemental attacks. None looked extraordinary individually, but teaching and enlightenment made quantity valuable, because the Empress could distribute useful knowledge across her entire troop system. Jiang Chen bought every manual despite Tian Ding politely suggesting that serious cultivators usually preferred quality over quantity. He also purchased farm ranch and arrow tower blueprints, then asked about seeds because legendary farmers could make low-grade crops far more valuable. Near the bottom of the catalog, he found the item that made him stop scrolling, an epic hero summon token priced at 10 million stones. Tian Ding expected a rookie lord to treat that token like an impossible treasure. Jiang Chen nearly laughed because an epic token was already sitting in his own inventory, waiting for a buyer. More importantly, his upgrade ability could turn a much lower token into legendary quality if he could gather enough spirit stones. The merchant's token gave him a cover story. Publicly, any epic token sold through him could be blamed on the caravan instead of Jiang Chen's private loot. If Jiang Chen sold his own epic token for roughly 10 million, that money could fund the legendary upgrade needed for his second hero slot. His first target was obvious: Ying Man, whose relationship with money operated on a scale normal rookies could not understand. She declined instantly because her family apparently stored epic hero tokens by the drawer, treating them more like stationery than treasures. Jiang Chen recovered from that emotional damage and contacted Chu Weishi instead. She wanted the token badly, but admitted that even with family help, she could not immediately produce 10 million spirit stones. Jiang Chen became so eager to close the sale that he nearly offered to lose money, which made Chu Weishi suspicious of his sudden generosity. He changed tactics and promised to reserve the opportunity until she could speak with her city lord after returning to Blue Star. Chu Weishi was moved enough to send him a deep-sea lure she obtained but could not safely use. For an ordinary rookie, the lure meant a dangerous sea monster wave. For Jiang Chen, it looked like mobile loot arriving at his front door. With legendary farmers processing corpses and high-tier troops doing the killing, the gift was potentially worth far more than its market price. Jiang Chen finished the caravan deal with the manuals, talismans, blueprints, and cheap seeds while leaving the overpriced epic hero token untouched. Tian Ding had expected much heavier spending, but dinner at the Drunken Immortal Pavilion restored his respect for Jiang Chen's actual resources. Jiang Chen's shopping priorities looked strange to Tian Ding, because most rookies spent their first serious money on visible combat equipment. Jiang Chen already owned enough combat power to think differently. A low-grade seed could become valuable in the hands of legendary farmers, while a common blueprint might hide an upgrade path no merchant had priced into the sale. Technique books had the same asymmetric value because one purchase could become army-wide knowledge through the Empress. That was why Jiang Chen bought every mediocre manual while ignoring much of the expensive finished gear Tian Ding expected to sell. The epic hero token was the only finished item that held his attention, and even then he cared more about the transaction structure than the token itself. If he openly sold an epic token from private storage, curious rivals could ask where a commoner obtained something worth 10 million stones. If a merchant caravan had just visited, the same sale looked ordinary enough to avoid investigation. Ying Man ruined the first plan simply by being too rich to need another epic summon. Her comment about keeping epic tokens in a drawer reminded Jiang Chen that wealth could make another person's dream item emotionally invisible. Chu Weishi was the opposite because 10 million represented a real family decision rather than pocket change. When Jiang Chen lowered the hypothetical price too quickly, she noticed the contradiction immediately and asked why a reseller would volunteer to lose money. He recovered by reframing the discount as future negotiation with the merchant instead of personal desperation. Chu Weishi also remembered from exam material that merchant caravans normally remained only a few hours, making her worry the token would disappear before Blue Star access returned. Jiang Chen promised to reserve the opportunity with his own money if necessary. which was the part of the conversation that moved her. The deep-sea lure she sent afterward was not random gratitude. It was one of the few rare drops she owned and had planned to keep. For her, using it could bring a monster wave strong enough to threaten the territory. For Jiang Chen, the same item combined high-quality enemies with a farming system capable of extracting improved materials from every corpse. That mismatch in risk tolerance made the gift far more valuable to him than Chu Weixia understood. The deal also strengthened a pattern in their relationship. She trusted Jiang Chen with expensive promises, while he increasingly treated her dangerous luck as something worth protecting rather than exploiting carelessly. Tian Ding noticed enough of Jiang Chen's territory during dinner to stop treating him like an ordinary lucky rookie. Outstanding cuisine served casually suggested supply chains and building quality the catalog itself could not measure. His final warning about the Hua people in Xinjiang County therefore sounded less like random gossip and more like advice offered to a customer Tian Ding expected to matter later. Jiang Chen still refused to chase the mystery immediately because every hour spent worrying about county politics was an hour not spent improving the territory before beginner protection weakened. That choice postponed the political problem without removing it, which was why the warning became more relevant once rival national towns appeared during the domain-breaking stage. Before leaving, the merchant warned that the Hua people did not have an easy position inside Xinjiang County. He offered no explanation, leaving Jiang Chen irritated with the warning, but unwilling to chase county politics before his rookie territory was ready. Once the caravan disappeared, Jiang Chen turned the drunken immortal pavilion from private dining room into a business. Wang Kai prepared 1,000 portions of spirit snake soup using the jungle boss meat and the restaurant's epic kitchen bonuses. The final dish reached rare quality and permanently added 1 body point, which made 2,000 stones per portion look cheap to anyone who understood stats. A few broke lords complained about the price, but other buyers immediately compared each bowl to a reusable stat book and shut the argument down. The entire batch sold within 10 minutes, putting another 2 million spirit stones into Jiang Chen's hands. He promised limited restocks instead of flooding the market, partly because supply was real, and partly because scarcity made people return. 4 spending choices competed for the money: Lord Talent upgrades, technique upgrades, the deep sea lure, or more military equipment. The sea event would be more profitable after level 3, techniques needed time, and his entertainment talent was not urgent. Jiang Chen therefore chose the least glamorous option, with the fastest combat return, weapons for his new disciples. A normal sword was upgraded into Crimson Holy Word, an outstanding weapon carrying Blood Arc for area attacks and Holy Word for burst damage. Each copy cost 20,000 stones, and Jiang Chen produced 100 before his account could recover from the previous purchase. Every Celestial Sound Disciple and Celestial Maiden received one, raising hunting efficiency enough to justify the painful expense. By the next morning, recruitment had reached 230 disciples and was still climbing toward the ranking deadline. All were outstanding quality, all carried upgraded swords, and all received the Empress's command aura. Their combined power alone passed 6,000 stars before counting dragons, goddess warriors, Celestial Maiden, or the Empress herself. Jiang Chen checked the overnight battle log and found more than 21,000 monster kills from the rotating patrol system. The disciples worked in 3 shifts, keeping pressure on everything within 10 kilometers while allowing individuals to rest. No soldier had died, and the collection button returned roughly 261,000 energy, 31,800 stones, and 26 fine chests. The scale of the loot had reached the point where Jiang Chen dumped minor drops into storage rather than sorting each piece. By late morning, he was eating in the pavilion's top floor, while Zizai Tian gave him a massage good enough to threaten his concentration. He escaped into the regional chat, where everyone was discussing the troop power ranking deadline. Huang Xian proudly revealed that he had built 3 barracks, 100 houses, and roughly 1,400 militia inside a level 1 territory. The population density sounded less like military preparation and more like an experiment in how quickly people could start a riot. A new lord asked why anyone would recruit weak soldiers instead of leveling existing ones, and the chat responded with unnecessary cruelty. Wei Ming eventually gave the useful answer. The energy cost per combat point was dramatically lower on a fresh militia recruit than on a high-level one. The ranking rewarded total power, not quality or survival, so mass recruitment was mathematically correct for ordinary competitors. Chu Weixia then video called Jiang Chen and asked how many troops he had produced. He answered truthfully, about 300. She assumed he meant 300 common soldiers and concluded he was probably aiming for the top 100 instead of first place. Jiang Chen did not correct her because explaining 300 outstanding disciples would ruin the surprise. Chu Weixia had chosen not to spam militia at all. She considered one outstanding chest too small a reward for wrecking her normal development. Her real reason for conceding first was Ying Man, who had mobilized roughly 2,000 militia on top of existing epic squads. Chu Weixia estimated Ying Man's combined troop power around 6,000 stars. That number relaxed Jiang Chen because his disciples alone had already crossed it before his other units entered the calculation. Chu Weixia admitted that Ying Man had sent her to gather information on Jiang Chen while asking the exact same questions about Ying Man. Their competitive pride had become so strange that neither wanted to ask the other directly. Then, Chu Weixia mentioned a much more useful discovery near the mountain range where the earlier epic tiger had appeared. Her scouts encountered 12 level 14 mountain guardians, all outstanding dwarf soldiers, and lost 3 more wolf riders escaping them. Jiang Chen immediately stopped hearing bad luck and started hearing opportunity. A full organized squad of outstanding dwarves usually meant a military structure nearby, and a structure meant a recruitable asset if he could capture it. Chu Weixia planned to return with Ying Man after their Blue Star visit, which created a narrow window before the mountain became contested. Jiang Chen ended the call and ordered 4 dragons, 5 goddess warriors, all 9 celestial maidens, and the Empress back to base. The Empress counted the riders and realized 4 dragons carried the 16-person strike force perfectly. Jiang teasingly called her his Empress while praising the calculation, and she objected only to the implication that she had recently become smart. Before departure, he raised 3 dragons from level 6 to level 10, spending roughly 414,000 energy. Their larger bodies nearly collided inside the cramped territory, giving Jiang Chen another reason to reach level 3 quickly. Only minutes remained before the troop power ranking closed, so the expedition waited for the result before taking off. Across the map, Ying Man was finally convinced that Jiang Chen's 300 recruits meant he had settled for a minor placement. Ming Tian asked why she refused to message him directly, and Ying Man admitted she wanted victory to look effortless. Meng Tian dryly noted that effortless confidence was exactly how Jiang Chen looked every time he defeated her. At noon, the ranking began revealing names from 100th place upward. The cutoff started just above 500 combat power, causing one lord to mourn the few militia he should have recruited. Tushan Yaya landed safely inside the top 100, after spending only what was necessary, proving she had calculated her threshold well. Lin Hemo appeared much higher but kept quiet, still cautious after Jiang Chen destroyed his spyhawk. Huangshan's 1,400 crowded militia earned 10th place and an outstanding chest, validating his reckless investment. Several small family lords and even a commoner filled the rest of the top 10 through the same all-in strategy. Third place went to Mu Qingshuan with roughly 4,200 total combat power after military funding limited how far she could push. That left only 2 names, and the chat assumed they had to be Ying Man and Jiang Chen once again. Chu Weixia objected because Jiang Chen had told her he only made 300 troops. Wei Ming was the first person to notice the contradiction correctly. If those troops were ordinary, Jiang Chen should already have appeared somewhere below 3rd. Second place was announced for Ying Man with an outstanding chest and 200 reputation. Her 4th consecutive runner-up result became instant ammunition for the regional chat, though nobody sensible volunteered to say it to her face. Ying Man became so angry that her ancestral dragon bloodline unexpectedly reacted. Her hair lifted, her eyes shifted toward dragon pupils, and Meng Tian realized her bloodline concentration had advanced slightly from pure emotional pressure. The discovery delighted the advisor far more than the person actually evolving. Ying Man tried to calm down, while Meng Tian practically begged her to stay angry because the breakthrough was worth more than piles of chests. Then first place appeared, Jiang Chen, epic chest, and 300 reputation. Ying Man called him immediately and accused him of lying about the 300 troops. Jiang Chen tried to answer, but she was too irritated to let him finish a sentence before ending the call. He chose not to chase the argument because the delayed global announcement would reveal the truth soon enough. The strike force climbed aboard 4 dragons and launched toward Chu Weixia's mountain range before any returning lord could interfere. Jiang Chen pulled out his new epic chest during the flight and handed it to the Empress, whose enthusiasm for opening high-tier chests was becoming obvious. The result justified her excitement. In a rank skill book called Great Sumeru Sword Technique, the Empress's strongest personal technique had been far lower quality, making this defensive sword art a dramatic upgrade on its own. At high mastery, Great Sumeru created void barriers and could eventually expand those defenses into a full sword domain. Jiang Chen had the Empress learn it immediately, which triggered teaching and enlightenment. The pavilion registered Great Sumeru for every celestial sound unit at no additional book cost. Jiang Chen considered restricting the technique to elite soldiers as a reward system, then decided his exhausted three-shift workforce had already earned it. All 9 celestial maidens and every disciple gained access at once, turning one epic chest reward into an army-wide defensive upgrade. Zizai Tian tested the beginner barrier on Dragon 9's back until the dragon complained about people practicing sword arts on her while airborne. Giselle judged that even her thunder spear would struggle to break the barrier in one clean strike. The test confirmed the important part. Jiang Chen had just given hundreds of outstanding troops and a ranked defensive technique before most rookie lords owned 1A rank manual. After roughly an hour and a half of flight, the dragons landed in the valley where the earlier epic tiger had died. The mountain range covered so much of Chu Weishi's surroundings that leaving it uncleared would cripple her future expansion. Jiang Chen declared that he had traveled all this way to help his friends solve that problem. The Empress looked at him long enough to make clear that both of them understood he was mainly here for the loot. Before entering the mountains, Jiang Chen checked the Lord list and saw most competitors had already returned to Blue Star. That was the moment he had been waiting for, since creating the Celestial Sound Disciple. He accepted the Heavenly Tao prompt and released the announcement across the entire Blue Star domain. The message stated that Lord Jiang Chen of Town 10,086 had created an outstanding troop type, Celestial Sound Disciple. The wording mattered, because he had not discovered, bought, or inherited the troop. The system credited him with creating something new. The achievement had not occurred at this quality in more than a century, and billions of new lords received the notice simultaneously. Jiang Chen gained 10,000 reputation and 100 legend points before the public reaction even began. His reputation jumped to world famous, immediately attracting an outstanding elven hero who began traveling toward his tavern. The higher reputation tier had already turned fame into a recruitment mechanic, exactly the kind of secondary payoff Jiang Chen valued. More personally, the announcement also proved he had told the truth about making only 300 troops. They were simply 300 outstanding soldiers belonging to a troop type nobody else knew existed. Tu Shan Yaya was one of the few people still online and reacted with enough excitement to ask Jiang Chen to adopt her. He almost responded before remembering that she was a young sky fox, then learned her species measured age differently from humans. Their strange conversation ended when Yaya revealed she had a younger sister named Tu Shan Susu, another coincidence Jiang Chen filed under impossible web novel logic. Jiang Chen ignored the regional celebration and turned toward the mountains with his assembled strike force. 4 dragons, the Empress, 9 celestial maidens, and 5 goddess warriors advanced with outstanding weapons, and Great Sumeru already learned. The world could argue about his announcement without him. The mountain range contained a military building, and Jiang Chen wanted to reach it first. The announcement did not stay inside the battlefield. Realm altars across Blue Star reacted, pulling veteran city lords into the same story. The announcement also triggered a reaction at every realm altar linked to new Blue Star lords. City administrations treated those altars as both transport infrastructure and strategic sensors, so a domain-wide creation notice could not be ignored. Veteran officials who normally dismissed rookie rankings suddenly saw a development with long-term military implications. A lord who merely recruited outstanding troops was wealthy or lucky. A lord who created a reproducible outstanding troop type could reshape recruitment itself. Dragon Nation channels celebrated the achievement, partly because national strength inside the 7th heaven had not been dominant in recent years. Cherry Blossom Nation rookies reacted more aggressively and accused the announcement of being impossible or manipulated. Some immediately discussed eliminating the creator before the troop type matured, turning a beginner achievement into international hostility within minutes. South Stick Nation players produced the opposite absurdity and began claiming Jiang Chen must somehow belong to their heritage. Jiang Chen would have mocked both reactions equally if he had been watching, but he was already moving toward the mountains. More serious powers skipped the public arguments and began asking who controlled EC City, who knew Jiang Chen personally, and what he might want. One city leader openly proposed offering money status, protection, or marriage connections in exchange for future access to his troop line. Another considered whether helping him survive the rookie phase could create decades of preferred recruitment later. Those calculations were premature because nobody outside Jiang Chen's territory understood that the celestial sun system depended on the interdimensional empress. Still, the political reaction proved reputation had crossed from internet fame into strategic value. At EC City's altar, Lu Washi arrived so quickly that Chu Weixia had to chase her across the city rather than use normal transport. 2 senior elders were already examining the disturbance when the announcement text stabilized. One elder remembered a veteran who had abandoned a century-old territory to restart and assumed Jiang Chen must be another hidden expert. The idea seemed more reasonable to them than an 18-year-old rookie creating a troop type in 3 days. Chu Weixia listened to their theories until she could no longer resist correcting them. She stated plainly that Jiang Chen was not an ancient master but a classmate from the same city and the same generation. The elders needed several seconds to reconcile the ordinary school record they imagined with the global message floating over the altar. Lu Washi checked the town number repeatedly because town 10,086 matched her daughter's battlefield assignment exactly. Chu Weixia then pointed out the detail she cared about most. Jiang Chen had not lied about recruiting only 300 troops. The apparent deception came entirely from everyone's assumption that 300 meant cheap militia instead of outstinct celestial sound disciples. That vindication changed Lu Washi's judgment on the pending hero token transaction. A commoner who could keep an expensive promise while sitting beside an epic token was suddenly worth treating as a relationship rather than a risk. The Heavenly Tao then issued Lu Washi a private administrative reward tied to Jiang Chen's achievement. Her city authority advanced 1 level because a new lord registered through EC City's realm altar had created a recognized troop species. Level 3 administration allowed her to manifest inside rookie territories under strict observer restrictions. She could not fight, transport resources freely, or interfere with beginner battles, but she could finally see her daughter's situation firsthand. Lu Washi found it almost insulting that years of official work had not earned the promotion, while her daughter's classmate triggered it in 3 days. Chu Weixia found that much funnier than her mother did. By the time they left the altar, Lu Washi had changed from questioning whether Jiang Chen deserved trust to planning how EC City should maintain contact. That shift later explained the generous service fee attached to Chu Weixia's hero token payment and Lu Washi's willingness to negotiate over the Dwarf Royal Palace. Jiang Chen had created a troop type for military reasons, but the first secondary reward was political leverage he had never asked for. Foreign rookie channels argued over whether Dragon Nation could really produce someone capable of creating an outstanding troop type this early. Some rival groups immediately treated Jiang Chen as a strategic threat, while others started calculating what friendship with him might be worth decades later. Several powers openly discussed recruitment offers involving money, status, and protection, assuming a created troop type could eventually be shared or reproduced. Inside EC City, Chu Weixia was already sitting with her mother when the realm altar started responding. Her mother, City Lord Lu Washi, was a sky-rank veteran powerful enough to fly and far beyond anything permitted inside a rookie zone. Before the announcement, Lu Washi had been questioning whether Jiang Chen could be trusted with 10 million stones for the epic hero token. Chu Weixia insisted he kept his word, but her mother pointed to the 300 troop claim as evidence that he enjoyed misleading people. Then the altar displayed Jiang Chen's name, town number, and the creation of celestial sound disciples. The supposed lie collapsed instantly. 300 troops had been accurate. Only their quality had been absurd. 2 city elders initially assumed the creator had to be an old expert restarting from zero after decades of experience. Chu Weixia enjoyed the correction far too much and told them their legendary expert was her classmate. Lu Washi received a private city lord confirmation from the Heavenly Tao, removing the last possibility of coincidence. The achievement also upgraded her administrative authority from level 2 to level 3 because a rookie tied to her city had created a major troop type. That new authority would later let Lu Washi enter beginner territories as an invulnerable observer, something she had not been able to do before. She also changed her answer about the epic hero token and agreed to help Chu Weixia raise the money. Jiang Chen knew none of this while moving deeper into the mountains, which was exactly how he preferred world-changing fame to behave. About 2 kilometers in, the strike force met 12 level 14 mountain guardians identical to the squad that had mauled Chu Weixia's scouts. The dwarves activated battle stance and expanded into 3-meter giants with heavy hammers and reinforced bodies. Jiang Chen kept the Empress beside him as bodyguard and released everyone else to fight. Giselle claimed the first opponent and met a warhammer with her thunder spear, hard enough to throw a visible shockwave across the trail. The dwarf expected raw strength to decide the clash, then tried to recover his pride by lecturing Giselle about technique. She answered by barely touching his weapon, redirecting his balance, and driving the spear through his mouth before he could reset. The first kill rewarded 14,000 energy, more than 2,000 stones, and an outstanding chest. The celestial maidens fought with cleaner flowing movement than the goddess warriors, but the outcome was just as fast. Within roughly 30 seconds, the entire squad was dead, turning a formation that terrified Chu Weixia into a profitable speed bump. The battle returned 168,000 energy, confirming Jiang Chen's guess that the mountains were worth clearing before anyone else arrived. Further inside, they encountered heavy goat cavalry, another organized, outstanding dwarf unit that pointed toward a military source rather than random monsters. The strike force cut through them and continued until the mountains opened around a city carved directly into living stone. Jiang Chen finally found the hidden structure, a dwarf royal palace of epic quality. It was far more valuable than the ordinary troop building he had expected, and Chu Weixia had unknowingly lived beside it the entire time. War horns rolled through the valley as the palace gates opened and an organized dwarf army marched out. Common miners formed the mass, elite musketeers and long-beard warriors filled the center, and outstanding goat cavalry guarded the flanks. Then the personal guards separated and revealed Mountain King Arthas Stormwind, a level 18 legendary hero with roughly 420 combat stars. The dwarf was built like compressed bronze, 3 meters tall, nearly as broad, and armored around a warhammer large enough to flatten ordinary troops. His A-rank command strengthened miners and musketeers especially hard, while a B-rank aura improved the rest of the army. Jiang Chen recognized the Storm Clan bloodline from study and expected divine descent, the A-rank evolution of battle stance. For the first time in days, he looked at an enemy and decided a careless charge could actually cost him something valuable. The Empress wanted the duel, but Jiang Chen refused, because if she fought the Mountain King, nobody comparable remained to guard him. The problem was not whether his army could win, it was whether winning would produce casualties he could not replace. Arthas also saw the danger and unexpectedly offered a retreat instead of attacking first. He pointed out the traditional friendship between their races and promised to overlook the trespass if Jiang Chen left immediately. Jiang Chen was about to answer when Chu Weixia called at the worst possible moment. He declined the video and received the important message by text. She had secured the 10 million spirit stones for the epic hero token. That money changed the entire tactical situation because Jiang Chen's crystal mine had just crossed 1,000 units. He now had enough crystal to upgrade the territory to level 3, which unlocked a second hero slot. 10 million spirit stones was also the exact amount he needed for the legendary hero token upgrade he had been planning. Jiang Chen told Chu Weixia he had become suddenly available, a shift she immediately mocked because money had apparently solved his scheduling conflict. She transferred the 10 million, and he waited just long enough to make the transaction look like a purchase from the departed merchant. Then Jiang Chen sent Chu Weixia the epic hero token that had been sitting in his own inventory all along. Lu Washi added another 3 million stones as a service fee, clearly signaling that EC City's attitude toward Jiang Chen had changed after the global announcement. Chu Weixia thanked him, then cheerfully said her new epic hero would help wipe out the dwarves once she returned. Jiang Chen decided not to explain that those dwarves were currently standing in front of him. At Chu Weixia's territory, the epic summon produced a dwarf king named Bernie Stormwind, who asked for beer almost immediately. The irony was severe enough that Chu Weixia, after complaining about dwarves all day, briefly regretted the entire recruitment. Back at the palace, Jiang Chen used his newly secured crystal and upgraded the territory to level 3 immediately. His territory expanded to 30,000 square meters, opened a teleport gate, unlocked stables, and activated the second hero slot. Then he took a low-grade blank hero token and poured the 10 million stones into his upgrade path. A pillar of golden light erupted between the two armies, leaving a legendary hero token in Jiang Chen's hand. The display was not intended as intimidation, but watching a rookie manufacture a legendary summon item was enough to make the dwarf formation hesitate anyway. Jiang Chen activated the token before anyone could change the subject. A woman stepped from the light wearing silver armor, a golden crown, and 2 enormous white wings. She introduced herself as Angel Yen and accepted Jiang Chen's authority with far less resistance than the Empress had shown on her first day. Her memories confirmed another important pattern. Jiang Chen's heroes were arriving from real worlds beyond the battlefield rather than being generated locally. Yen understood the myriad races battlefield as part of an unknown universe her civilization had searched for, and treated her arrival as a new duty. Her level 1 combat power was already 128 stars, higher than the Empress's original starting point. And a ranked divine body cultivation method gave massive baseline stats, while several ranked combat skills came with advanced mastery already attached. Heavenly Blade Strike, Thunder Force, Wormhole Defense Barrier, and Divine Knowledge Archive made her a pure martial hero built for personal combat. Jiang Chen pointed toward Arthas and asked whether she could defeat him in her current state. Yen answered professionally, no, but she would fight to the death if ordered. Jiang Chen had no interest in heroic suicide, so he spent roughly 374,000 energy raising her from level 1 to level 10. He also invested more than 370,000 into the 9 celestial maidens, pushing them from 5 to 7. At level 10, Yen reached around 380 combat stars and more than 500 body points. She reassessed the Mountain King and gave Jiang Chen the answer he wanted. Now she could fight him. The level increase also unlocked Dark Plane Brand, an A-rank survival skill that recorded a soldier's living state inside Yen's shadow dimension. If a branded soldier suffered lethal damage, Yen could spend spirit power to restore that person to the saved state. The current limit was 10 marked units and 1 resurrection for each mark per day. Jiang Chen immediately branded all 9 Celestial Maidens because legendary troops were too expensive to lose to one bad exchange. With a death insurance system finally available, Jiang Chen organized the battle around the dwarf army's most dangerous ranged unit. The Celestial Maidens would overlap Great Sumeru barriers to absorb musketeer volleys before those glass cannon shooters could focus a dragon. The goddess warriors and dragons would break the formation, while Yen held Arthas away from everyone else. The Empress again received bodyguard duty, a role she clearly considered beneath her until Jiang Chen reminded her that his death ended the territory. Yen drew her thunder sword and led a strike force toward an army that outnumbered them by roughly 50 to 1. Jiang Chen watched the charge less like a heroic last stand and more like a high-risk withdrawal from an extremely angry bank. The 9 Celestial Maidens opened together, creating a continuous Sumeru barrier across the front of the formation. 100 dwarf musketeers fired at once, hammering the invisible wall with concentrated shots powerful enough to threaten dragons in massed volleys. Jiang Chen knew their weakness from study. Nearly all their value sat in offense, and their reload cycle left them exposed. Dragon 9 caught that opening the instant the first volley ended. 4 dragons dropped through the barrier line, reached the musketeers before they finished reloading, and flooded the position with black flame. More than 100 elite shooters disappeared before they could fire again. Arthas responded by launching Storm Hammer toward Dragon 9, with enough force to kill her outright if it connected cleanly. A silver flash intercepted the strike. Yen met the projected hammer with her thunder sword and shattered the attack into a blast of wind. Dragon 9 thanked the new hero while insisting she had not been scared, then created distance at a speed that made the denial unconvincing. Arthas activated Divine Descent and expanded into an 8-meter giant before launching himself into the air. Yen met him head-on, thunder wrapping her weapon until the collision between the 2 legendary heroes tore a pressure wave across the battlefield. Their duel occupied the sky while the rest of Jiang Chen's force dismantled the army below. The goddess warriors erased goat cavalry with thunder spear throws, then entered melee under Thunder War Body. The Celestial Maidens layered sword skills, Blood Arc, Holy Word, and their new defensive technique without breaking formation. 4 dragons landed among the lower-tier troops and used claws, bites, tails, and flame where ranged attacks were no longer necessary. Within 15 minutes, the organized dwarf army ceased to exist as a meaningful force. Jiang Chen's only damage was a collection of minor scratches on dragons that were too large to dodge elegantly. Dark Plane Brand never had to activate, leaving the 2 legendary heroes as the final battle still unresolved. Jiang Chen prepared to send everyone into the duel, but Yen asked permission to finish Arthas alone. He understood that a martial hero valued the outcome differently from a commander and allowed the one-on-one fight to continue. The decision unexpectedly raised the Empress's affection, because Jiang Chen framed the duel with more dramatic dignity than he personally felt. Arthas's Divine Descent finally expired after several more exchanges, shrinking him back to normal size with most of his spirit energy spent. Yen was exhausted as well and admitted that her wormhole barrier had been close to failing before his transformation ended. The Mountain King accepted the result without retreating, choosing a final exchange instead of abandoning the palace. Yen answered with Heavenly Blade Strike, forming an enormous energy sword above the battlefield and bringing it down through Arthas in one decisive cut. The legendary hero died with the kind of warrior's ending Yen believed he had earned. The reward was enormous, roughly 3,600,000 energy, 500,000 stones, a legendary hero token, and an advanced body book. Jiang Chen used the body book on himself immediately and gained 100 body points before anyone could suggest a more strategic recipient. The legendary token mattered just as much because the coming mayor competition promised another hero slot. If he survived long enough to claim it, Jiang Chen now had the foundation for a 3rd legendary hero. The empty dwarf royal palace triggered an occupation prompt as soon as the battlefield settled. Jiang Chen chose Occupy, registering the epic military building under his territory, instead of destroying a resource that other lords would kill to possess. Then, he opened the production panel and understood why the palace had been defended so aggressively. It could produce a Mountain King every 30 days, meaning time alone turned the structure into a legendary troop factory. Over years, the palace could accumulate a force major powers would consider worth starting wars over. Jiang Chen decided immediately that the monthly Mountain King production would remain private information. The building also produced epic storm guardians, outstanding goat cavalry and mountain guardians, and elite dwarf musketeers. Existing inventory already held 1 Mountain King, 2 storm guardians, and 20 musketeers ready for recruitment. Jiang Chen took the Mountain King and guardians, but the musketeers interested him for a completely different reason. Dwarf musketeers were famous for extreme stat allocation, terrifying range damage, almost no body, and very little value after their ammunition cycle ended. Jiang Chen used troop soul stones to force the entire squad through an evolution chain the dwarf clans themselves considered embarrassing. The elite musketeers became dwarf snipers, then outstanding dwarf rocketeers, nicknamed RPG dwarves by other lords. Their bodies remained absurdly weak, but Rocket Blast, Psychic Guidance, and Overload turned that weakness into a specialized siege package. Jiang Chen spent around 220,000 Spirit Stones and 40 Soul Stones evolving all 20 units. Then he raised the new Mountain King, 2 Storm Guardians, and every Rocketeer to level 10 for roughly 768,000 energy. He immediately ordered a test volley at the ground 300 meters away. The dwarves needed about 30 seconds to channel, proving their attack cycle was terrible for fast hunting or close combat. When 20 Spirit Rockets finally launched, Jiang Chen changed the target in midair to test Psychic Guidance. Every projectile turned sharply toward a nearby hill and buried itself inside the stone before detonating. When the smoke cleared, the hill had effectively disappeared. Dragon 9 tried to position Jiang Chen between herself and the tiny dwarves after realizing a few direct rockets could kill her. The Empress judged that their long-range burst might exceed a Goddess Warrior's Thunder Spear in raw siege output. Angel Yen asked the important limitation, and Jiang Chen confirmed each Rocketeer could fire only 2 normal rockets or 1 overloaded shot before emptying its spirit energy. After that, a low-level monster could beat them in melee, because almost everything had been sacrificed for those few attacks. Jiang Chen loved the design anyway. Walls and armies did not care whether artillery looked helpless after the target ceased to exist. Night was falling, so he divided the return force and sent Giselle with the Goddess Warriors and Dwarf recruits by land. Jiang Chen took the Empress, Fanning Tian, Zizite, and Dragon 9 toward Chu Weisha's territory instead of home. He had just captured a valuable military structure beside her land, and a profitable conversation was waiting. Chu Weisha's entire base sounded alarms when Dragon 9 appeared on the horizon because nobody expected a level 10 legendary dragon to arrive casually. Her newly summoned dwarf hero Bernie picked up his hammer with the expression of someone regretting his first day on the job. Then Jiang Chen called down from the dragon, and panic turned into disbelief. Chu Weisha had known him for years, but seeing a classmate arrive as a dragon rider made the battlefield's recent rumors feel much more real. The greater surprise was the woman standing beside her. City Lord Lu Washi had already used her new administrative privilege to visit. Jiang Chen checked Lu Washi's battlefield status before relaxing. Her million-star power was suppressed to level 0, all active stats were reduced to 1, and an invincible observer state prevented both combat and injury. The rule existed so veteran city lords could inspect rookie areas without turning beginner conflicts into proxy wars. Lu Washi studied Dragon 9 and assumed the legendary unit had been attracted by Jiang Chen's new world-famous reputation. The explanation was completely wrong, but Jiang Chen praised her insight rather than volunteer the truth about his earlier upgrades. Lu Washi asked for a private conversation, which suited Jiang Chen because he had come to negotiate anyway. She began by warning that the subject involved the deepest secret surrounding Chu Weisha's birth. Jiang Chen attempted to decline on principle, correctly believing family secrets created obligations. But Lu Washi continued before he could escape. She asked whether he knew the identity of Chu Weisha's father, then revealed that no such person existed. Chu Weisha was apparently the only human Lu Washi knew who had been born inside the myriad races battlefield. Years earlier, Lu Washi obtained a mythical item called Mother-Child Source Liquid and drank it after reading a description promising a pleasant surprise. The phrase concealed a literal reproductive effect, and Lu Washi later gave birth through asexual reproduction. Jiang Chen had to suppress the urge to laugh at the fact that a mythical item had turned a linguistic joke into pregnancy. The real reason Lu Washi shared the secret was not biology but Chu Weisha's abnormal battlefield constitution. In only 3 days, Chu Weisha had encountered dozens of rare monsters, more than a dozen outstanding monsters, and multiple epic threats. The Mountain Guardians were not included in that count, and Lu Washi still did not know a legendary Mountain King had lived nearby. Jiang Chen finally understood the pattern. Chu Weisha attracted high-quality monsters and resources with terrifying consistency. To Lu Washi, that constitution made her daughter a walking disaster magnet. To Jiang Chen, it also meant powerful targets might continue appearing within convenient striking distance of a future teleport gate. Lu Washi formally asked him to protect Chu Weixia once inter-territory travel became practical. In exchange, she would suppress retaliation from the families of the lords Jiang Chen had killed and guarantee his safety when he returned to Blue Star. The family protection mattered less to Jiang Chen than Lu Washi expected, but the long-term alliance around Chu Weixia was clearly valuable. Before accepting, Jiang Chen asked why an experienced city lord trusted an 18-year-old commoner with that responsibility. Lu Washi had investigated him and found old business proposals modeled after Alipay and Pinduoduo in his record. She considered the plans unrealistic but saw them as evidence that Jiang Chen solved problems in unconventional ways. The Epic Hero token transaction proved he would keep an expensive promise, while Dragon 9 convinced her that he could actually intervene in serious danger. Almost every detail behind her conclusion was inaccurate, yet the conclusion itself benefited Jiang Chen enough that he accepted. Only then did he reveal the commercial reason for his visit and show Lu Washi the Dwarf Royal Palace status panel. Her composure finally cracked when she saw an epic military building capable of producing mountain kings. Lu Washi immediately recognized its location as the mountains beside her daughter's territory and accused Jiang Chen of selling Chu Weixia her own neighborhood. Jiang Chen did not deny the geography. He pointed out that the palace had been wild property until he defeated its defenders and registered it. Chu Weixia could not have beaten a 420-star mountain king alone, and inviting Ying Man's imperial forces would have complicated ownership anyway. Lu Washi saw the scratches on Dragon 9 and accepted that the capture had carried genuine risk even for Jiang Chen's stronger force. His price was 20 million spirit stones for Chu Weixia's recruitment rights to every palace troop except Mountain Kings. Mountain Kings would cost 5 million each as separate transactions, because Jiang Chen had no intention of giving away the building's legendary output. The offer was almost pure profit from his perspective, because Storm Guardians were already inferior to the future ceiling of his own true disciples. Lu Washi saw it differently. 20 million for regular access to an epic building with legendary production potential was still extremely favorable. She agreed to pay 10 million immediately and the remainder after the next Blue Star access window. The agreement included defensive help if outside forces discovered the palace and tried to seize it. Jiang Chen accepted that condition eagerly, because attackers arriving at his registered structure would bring energy, loot, and legal justification with them. Chu Weixia tried to keep the group for dinner, only to serve the same spirit snake soup Jiang Chen had sold through the trading post. He replaced the meal with epic and outstanding dishes from his own pavilion, then left before the contrast could become too embarrassing. Chu Weixia called after him that her new epic hero would beat him in the mayor battle. Jiang Chen waved from Dragon 9 without turning around and told her to keep dreaming. Back home, Angel Yen was leaving the drunken immortal pavilion, with the guilty posture of someone who had just discovered a dangerous hobby. She tried to maintain a disciplined warrior's dignity, while admitting Jiang Chen understood quality of life surprisingly well. Jiang Chen found the effort especially funny after watching her eat enough spiritual food to undermine the entire lecture about restraint. Before his own dinner, he posted a regional request for complete level 10 ranger equipment sets and offered high prices. His global fame made the request explode through chat, with Wei Ming immediately pressuring everyone to search their storage for anything useful. Jiang Chen bought several complete sets and tested whether his upgrade ability preserved set relationships between pieces. It did, opening a path towards equipment that could be passed from disciple to disciple inside the trial tower. After comparing options, he selected the Flowing Cloud Immortal set, 4 legendary pieces designed around speed, defense, offense, and resistance. The armor alone granted 45 body and the sword another 35, while the full set added 40 to most core stats. A passive called Body Like Flowing Clouds increased movement speed by 50%, and each piece carried a skill comparable to mastered rank techniques. Creating the 4 legendary pieces consumed most of Jiang Chen's fresh money again. 4 golden pillars erupted over the territory when the set formed, drawing every nearby soldier's attention to the courtyard. The Empress first assumed the equipment was for Jiang Chen, then briefly hoped it was for her. He disappointed both guesses and explained that the set existed to force outstanding disciples through the trial tower. Angel Yen arrived through a window after sensing the energy spike and froze when she saw the 4 pieces resonating together. Jiang Chen selected a hardworking disciple named Li Yan, raised her directly to level 10, and placed the legendary set in front of her. Under the Empress's command aura, Li Yan's body stat reached almost 300 despite her outstanding base quality. The Empress objected that the trial tower was supposed to temper skill and willpower, not reward someone for wearing overwhelming equipment. The flowing cloud set mattered because the trial tower tested a single disciple rather than the entire army. That meant one legendary set could be reused again and again instead of Jiang Chen equipping hundreds of soldiers permanently. The armor supplied raw durability, the helmet reinforced resistance and awareness, the boots multiplied mobility, and the sword covered finishing power. Together they removed the normal weakness of an outstanding disciple facing enemies, designed to test epic promotion. Jiang Chen treated the equipment less like personal treasure and more like industrial machinery for the pavilion. The Empress disliked the philosophy because her original sect had built strength through repeated hardship and internal discipline. Jiang Chen did not reject that tradition. He simply believed a lord's job was to reduce unnecessary risk when the outcome could be bought once and reused. The disagreement revealed how differently they understood responsibility. The Empress thought like a master training individual disciples to become worthy. Jiang Chen thought like a territory owner, trying to make sure the largest possible number of soldiers survived long enough to become useful. Li Yan became the first real experiment in those two philosophies. Her base quality remained outstanding when she entered, but legendary equipment temporarily pushed her effective combat profile beyond many epic troops. Each floor of the tower forced different movement defense, technique, and endurance checks rather than one simple duel. The flowing cloud set answered almost every category, before Li Yan had to spend much of her own reserve. That was why the second floor activated in seconds instead of after a long recovery period. The Empress stopped predicting times once the lights continued climbing faster than expected. Jiang Chen also learned an important operational limit while watching. The tower could process only one active challenger with the shared set at a time. Mass production, therefore, required scheduling, rather than simply throwing 300 disciples through one doorway. Fanning Tian solved the problem by organizing candidates according to level, readiness, and available energy for pre-leveling. Other celestial maidens divided the night into shifts so the legendary set could move from one challenger to the next without sitting unused. Jiang Chen's main cost was no longer rare promotion materials. It was the energy needed to raise each candidate high enough to exploit the equipment. That changed hunting from simple income into fuel for a permanent troop quality conversion line. Every new true disciple also hunted more efficiently afterward, creating a feedback loop that slowly paid for later promotions. The system was not free, but it converted one expensive equipment investment into a repeatable military advantage. That repeatability was exactly why Jiang Chen valued the set more than wearing it himself. Jiang Chen asked what the purpose of tempering was, then answered himself, becoming stronger. From his perspective, refusing an available advantage in wartime was not discipline, it was inefficient management. Li Yan entered the 9th-floor tower, while the Empress predicted the process could take hours. The second floor lit only seconds later, making the prediction age badly almost immediately. During the wait, Jiang Chen posted another 1,000 portions of spirit snake soup, though sales were slower because the richest rookies were running low on cash. About 30 minutes after entering, Li Yan cleared the final floor and emerged as an epic true disciple. She described the supposedly brutal trial as difficult, in roughly the same way snapping dry branches was difficult while wearing legendary equipment. Jiang Chen checked that true disciples still received the Empress's command aura and found no hidden compatibility problem. Then he asked the watching crowd who wanted to go next. Every disciple raised a hand, and loyalty scores climbed because promotion had become visible, repeatable, and tied to the territory rather than personal luck. Fanning Tian organized the line while the Empress accepted that Jiang Chen's shortcut had produced exactly the result he wanted. Angel Yen supported him openly, explaining that angels from her world also derived most of their strength from external divine systems. Jiang Chen automated the process, pre-level candidates to 10, cycle the flowing cloud set, open the trial tower automatically, and assign celestial maidens to supervise shifts. The Celestial Sound Pavilion had become an epic troop factory limited mostly by energy rather than rare troop tokens. That night, the expanded Level 3 mansion finally gave the Empress guest rooms, instead of forcing her to sleep on the floor. She welcomed Angel Yen as a younger sister, only for Yen to calmly mention that she was around 7,000 years old. Far away on Blue Star, Ying Man woke from the exhaustion caused by her earlier bloodline evolution. A court attendant casually told her that a teenager from EC City had created an outstanding troop type while she was sleeping. When Ying Man heard Jiang Chen's name and Town 10,086, the food in her hand stopped halfway to her mouth. Every accusation she made about the 300 troops came back at once, because Jiang Chen had been telling the truth the entire time. Her embarrassment worsened, because he never shouted back or tried to humiliate her. He simply waited for the announcement to prove it. Court staff speculated that Jiang Chen might be an ancient expert reincarnating, But Ying Ying Man rejected that idea immediately. No immortal mastermind, in her opinion, should look that excited over 2 million spirit stones. She returned to the battlefield with 6 epic troop tokens, including Iron Eagle formations meant for the planned mountain raid. Chu Weixia met her with the awkward news that Jiang Chen had already cleared the mountains and captured the dwarf royal palace. Ying Ying Man learned he had even sold Chu Weixia recruitment rights before she returned, adding another loss to a rivalry that refused to stay simple. By the next morning, 16 additional disciples had passed the trial tower and become epic true disciples. Li Yan sparred one of the palace's storm guardians and defeated the epic dwarf decisively, confirming Jiang Chen's judgment about his own troop ceiling. The promotions consumed roughly 1,700,000 energy, eating most of the Mountain King's earlier bounty. Jiang Chen's army now included 12 dragons, 12 goddess warriors, 9 celestial maidens, 16 true disciples, hundreds of regular disciples, dwarf troops, centaurs, and more than 500 farmers. The inventory looked ridiculous for a rookie, but Jiang Chen's attention moved straight to whatever could generate the next advantage. The Mystery Shack's daily item offered another anywhere door, the same rare travel tool Jiang Chen had sold to Ying Ying Man before. He called her, endured one sarcastic greeting about his world-famous status, and sold the door for another 1,000,000 stones. Then Ying Ying Man made a proposal Jiang Chen did not expect: become her vassal lord once she secured the mayor's seat. She offered 50 million spirit stones as a signing bonus without revealing the full imperial identity behind the invitation. Jiang Chen hesitated long enough that she doubled the offer to 100 million. For a few seconds the number genuinely hurt his resistance, but Heavenly Dao vassal contracts carried real obligations beyond taking someone's money. Serving the first emperor's daughter could turn Jiang Chen into a convenient piece inside politics he did not yet understand. He avoided rejecting her directly and pointed out that Ying Ying Man needed to become mayor before she could accept vassals anyway. Her competitive instincts took over the moment he suggested she might fail. They made a simple bet. If Ying Ying Man became mayor, Jiang Chen would accept vassalage. If Jiang Chen won, she would pay 100 million stones. Ying Ying Man's rivalry with Jiang Chen had become more complicated than simple annoyance by this point. She had access to imperial resources, expert advisors, epic farmers, elite troop tokens, and knowledge most rookies could only learn from textbooks. Losing once to a lucky commoner could be dismissed. Losing ranking after ranking forced her to study how he operated, even when pride made her gather information through Chu Weixia instead of asking directly. Her bloodline evolution during the troop ranking added a strange incentive for the rivalry to continue. Meng Tian saw Jiang Chen's ability to provoke her as a cultivation resource because intense anger had awakened more ancestral dragon blood. Ying Ying Man found that interpretation deeply irritating, which only made Meng Tian's argument more convincing. The vassal offer was therefore not merely an attempt to dominate a competitor. Recruiting Jiang Chen would place an unpredictable growth talent inside her own political structure instead of leaving him as a future rival with unknown alliances. 100 million spirit stones sounded absurd to Jiang Chen, but to the first emperor's household it could be cheaper than allowing a created troop lord to join another faction. Jiang Chen did not know enough imperial politics to calculate that side safely. What he understood was the heavenly Dao contract itself, and that was enough to make permanent obligation more frightening than immediate money. Turning the invitation into a mayor wager let both of them preserve pride while moving the decision onto a measurable contest. Ying Ying Man believed the contest favored her, because administration, farming, and military power were areas where inherited resources should matter most. Jiang Chen believed the same contest favored him because his battlefield-created legendary assets bypassed the quality cap on Blue Star imports. Neither needed to fake confidence. Their information sets genuinely pointed toward opposite conclusions. That made the wager more useful than casual trash talk, because the result would expose whose development model actually scaled better inside the rookie rules. When Ying Ying Man later paid 110 million without excuses, Jiang Chen's respect for her increased, even though he still enjoyed winning. She did not dispute a clear result or try to hide behind her family after losing. Instead, she paid extra for information, so the defeat could improve her next decision. Jiang Chen recognized that habit as one reason she remained dangerous despite the repeated second places. A rich rival who learned from losses was more useful and more threatening than a proud enemy who simply repeated mistakes. Their relationship therefore settled into a strange mix of competition, business, and reluctant strategic respect. The coming county conflicts would make that connection matter far more than either of them admitted during the mayor bet. Jiang Chen briefly imagined demanding Ying Ying Man as his own vassal, then remembered who her father was and chose money over historical suicide. Ying Man warned that the mayor competition tested more than fighting, including harvesting, construction, and farming strength. She asked whether Jiang Chen even had high-quality farmers, unaware that two legendary divine farmers were quietly managing his territory. Jiang Chen ended the call in an excellent mood because imported support from Blue Star was capped at epic quality. Ying Man could bring endless epic resources from her family, but she could not bring legendary troops or equipment through the restriction. Jiang Chen already had legendary heroes, dragons, and equipment created inside the battlefield, so the bet looked heavily tilted in his favor. The future 100 million immediately gave him reason to revisit the 3 territory advancement talismans bought from Tianding. His original Lord talent, Green Mountains Blue Waters, was only F rank and generally treated as an entertainment talent with poor combat value. Jiang Chen upgraded the talismans themselves before using them, turning cheap advancement items into far stronger progression tools. The talent climbed through Scenic Beauty and 4 Seasons Spring before reaching the C-rank state Spiritual Mist and Shrouds. The final evolution changed the territory physically as Visible Spirit Mist condensed from the air across all 30,000 square meters. The Empress sensed the shift and arrived almost immediately to measure what had happened. Spiritual energy density had increased to roughly 10 times the territory's old baseline, twice the concentration inside the restaurant's VIP room. Resting troops recovered faster, cultivation improved, and loyalty rose simply because Jiang Chen had turned home into a superior training environment. The entertainment talent everyone ignored had become a strategic foundation, once pushed far beyond the quality anyone normally considered economical. A new Heavenly Tao notice interrupted the celebration and opened a special resource collection ranking for their overdeveloped town. Common resources gave 1 point, fine resources 10, rare resources 100, with higher grades scaling upward. The board updated live until the following noon, making production speed and resource quality equally important. Wei Ming briefly held first with 11 points, while Ying Man followed with 9 before serious collection began. Jiang Chen upgraded 1 crystal into rare void crystal stone and instantly jumped to 100 points. The regional chat assumed the score came from his gold mine, since almost nobody knew exactly what his upgrade ability could do. Then Chu Weixia started rising quickly because her abnormal constitution attracted high-quality resource deposits as reliably as it attracted dangerous monsters. Ying Man followed with large numbers of epic farmers, and raw workforce quantity allowed both women to pass Jiang Chen's natural collection rate. The chat began predicting a 2-woman race and wondered whether Jiang Chen's ranking streak was finally ending. Someone then remembered that resources obtained from treasure chests also counted toward the score. Jiang Chen looked inside his warehouse and found the answer waiting: hundreds of fine chests and more than 4,600 common chests. He called the Empress for what she now considered her favorite job: opening treasure. She arrived fast enough to leave an after-image and immediately asked whether any epic chests were involved. Jiang Chen promised better chests later, then upgraded the common stock into fine chests for maximum efficiency. They created an assembly line. Jiang Chen upgraded, the Empress opened, and the warehouse filled with fine wood, fine iron, tools, equipment, and resources. His ranking score passed 10,000, then 20,000, while other lords tried to estimate how many chests he could possibly have saved. Ying Man remained confident because even 100 fine chests would run out quickly against continuous farming. The problem was that Jiang Chen did not have 100. Within minutes, his score crossed 100,000 and kept climbing without any visible sign of slowing. By the time an hour passed, Jiang Chen had roughly 500,000 points, and the regional chat had stopped pretending the lead was temporary. When all useful chest resources were counted, his total reached more than 1.5 million points. Chu Weixia sat near 48,000 in second, and Ying Man around 46,000 in third. Jiang Chen had more than 30 times the score of his closest competitor, with a full day still available. He posted that everyone should keep grinding because his chest advantage was temporary, repeating Ying Man's earlier argument with maximum politeness. The message irritated her far more than open trash talk would have. Tushan Yaya finally guessed that Jiang Chen had probably exchanged his huge reputation reserve at a wilderness reputation hall for chests. That explanation was at least plausible enough for other lords to stop inventing supernatural luck theories. With first place effectively secured, Jiang Chen returned to old assets that had become too weak for his standards. An elite centaur nest sat between his territory and Wei Ming's, useful to regular lords but irrelevant beside celestial sound troops. Jiang Chen offered it to Wei Ming for 100,000 stones, after rejecting the much lower first number. Wei Ming paid immediately, because even at that price, the recruitment structure improved his military position dramatically. Jiang Chen considered the transaction a small investment in a neighbor who understood boundaries and might become useful later. Then he sorted the chest haul and found around 150,000 units of fine resources, plus roughly 2,000 pieces of fine equipment. The chest strategy worked, only because Jiang Chen had been hoarding drops instead of opening everything the moment it appeared. Common chests looked worthless individually, so thousands had accumulated while his stronger troops cleared monsters across several hunting zones, upgrading them to fine quality cost spirit stones. But the resource ranking converted that cost into a huge temporary scoring advantage. The Empress opened chests quickly enough that item notifications became a continuous stream rather than separate events. Fine wood, fine iron, tools, weapons, and small material bundles piled into storage faster than workers could organize them. The score itself became a public spectacle because the live board updated every time another resource bundle entered Jiang Chen's inventory. At first, other lords treated the climb as a short burst and waited for his chest pile to empty. When the number passed 100,000, they started guessing he had saved several hundred chests. When it passed 500,000, those guesses turned into arguments about whether his lord talent secretly increased luck. Jiang Chen never corrected them, because every wrong theory kept attention away from the upgrade ability actually creating his advantages. Tushan Yaya's reputation hall theory was useful for the same reason. A lord with 10,000 reputation plausibly could have exchanged fame for large numbers of fine chests at the right wilderness structure. The explanation was incomplete, but it was believable enough to satisfy people who needed a normal rule behind an abnormal score. The resource hall also solved future construction problems more effectively than the ranking reward itself. 150,000 fine material units meant Jiang Chen could build and upgrade for days without waiting on common mines. The 2,000 fine equipment pieces created a different problem because storing them had almost no value. Jiang Chen listed so much gear at once that local blacksmiths watched market prices fall beneath what their own production costs could support. Some accused him of destroying honest business, while ordinary buyers treated the crash like a holiday sale. Jiang Chen had no sentimental attachment to protecting inefficient market prices when his warehouse needed space. The blueprints escaped that liquidation because even basic structures could hide rare upgrade paths only his ability could exploit. The lighthouse proved the principle immediately by turning an ordinary watchtower concept into battlefield vision, detection, cleansing, and night illumination. Its 1,300-meter reveal radius later let Jiang Chen see demon waves long before other lords could react. The spring blueprint mattered even more because one buried upgrade path led directly to the legendary Fountain of Life. Jiang Chen could not afford it when he first discovered the option, so the blueprint became a reason to take the mayor wager seriously rather than just a curiosity. The 100 million stone bet with Ying Man effectively turned rivalry into financing for territory infrastructure. Useful sets went to disciples, while the rest flooded the auction house and temporarily crashed local equipment prices. Some blacksmith-focused lords complained about ruined business. Everyone else celebrated buying gear for less than normal cost. The real long-term value sat in blueprints, farms, arrow tower, 2 watchtowers, and a spring. Jiang Chen upgraded one watchtower into a lighthouse and raised it to level 3. The building revealed about 1,300 meters of fog, detected invisible threats, reduced negative effects, and provided adjustable light at night. The vision range mattered immediately because future large battles would be decided before enemies reached the walls. Then Jiang Chen opened the Spring Blueprints upgrade list and found an option that overshadowed everything else. Upgrade Path 76 could transform the ordinary spring into a legendary Fountain of Life for 100 million spirit stones. The price was absurd, but the description suggested long-term territory effects powerful enough to justify saving for it. Jiang Chen now had to choose between a legendary support building and any future legendary troop building that might appear. The bet with Ying Man made the decision less impossible because 100 million stones were potentially arriving within days. He went to bed still comparing those options when a midnight notification pulled him upright. Angel Yen had occupied an energy stone mine during one of her hunting routes. Unlike normal mineral deposits, an energy mine created stable passive energy income, making it one of the most valuable resources for a growing lord. Jiang Chen built a mining camp and assigned workers, then noticed the time and realized Yen had apparently never stopped hunting. Her log contained more than 1,400 battles from that single day. Yen ate when necessary, and otherwise treated rest as an optional feature, leaving Jiang Chen grateful and slightly intimidated by his own hero. The next morning, Cynthia and 6 goddess warriors returned from escorting Farmer 1 at the gold mine. They were dusty from days of hunting and security duty, but the promise of a major fight that afternoon restored their energy immediately. At noon, the resource ranking closed exactly as expected with Jiang Chen first by a humiliating margin. He received an epic chest and 300 reputation for more than 1.5 million collection points. Chu Weixia's 48,000 looked impressive until it was placed next to Jiang Chen's warehouse-driven score. Before the Empress could claim the epic chest, the Heavenly Dao opened a level 3 upgrade ranking. Jiang Chen had reached level 3 well before the announcement, making first place another reward he had already secured. The regional chat barely bothered guessing anymore. Everyone expected his name before the list appeared. First place gave Jiang Chen an outstanding chest and another 100 reputation. Chu Weish took second after waking before dawn to rush her upgrade, while Ying Ying Man finally escaped her usual runner-up position by landing third. Ying Ying Man reacted to yet another Jiang Chen victory with a flash of dragon pupils and an accidental sword strike through a nearby monster. Ming Tian encouraged the anger because the last episode had evolved her ancestral bloodline and increased her stats dramatically. Ying Ying Man insisted only losing the mayor battle could make her angry enough to trigger another breakthrough. She remained confident because her B-rank lord talent and imperial support gave her specialized military forces unavailable to almost every rookie. Her second hero, General Baisong, carried B-rank command over elite Qin formations, including armor-piercing soldiers and Iron Eagles. Under the combined buffs, those units could match ordinary epic 4-star troops despite lower base quality. General Bai Song promised his head if he failed to secure the mayor position, the kind of statement Jiang Chen would never demand from a useful employee. 10 local lords total reached level 3 by the time that ranking finished. Then the Heavenly Dao pinned a new announcement over every active screen. The domain-breaking battle was approaching. This battle would determine whether Town 10,086 survived its first territorial barrier break and who became mayor afterward. Jiang Chen's 100 million stone bet was no longer theoretical. The rules revealed a tower defense format based on direct military performance rather than random chess luck. Once 100 lords reached level 3, all qualified territories would move to the border and defend against invading alien waves. The town needed 1 million combined points to succeed. Success granted every lord extra stats, while failure downgraded territories and removed stats instead. The highest individual score would earn the mayor position. Ying Ying Man loved the format because she believed pure military power finally removed Jiang Chen's strange economic tricks. Jiang Chen loved it for exactly the same reason, because his strongest advantages were the ones she still had not seen. Some weak lords openly discussed hiding in the rear and collecting the town-wide success reward without fighting. Mu Qingshuan reminded them that 100 participants needed roughly 10,000 points each on average if the burden were shared evenly. Ying Ying Man offered to carry an enormous share, but even she could not reasonably protect everyone while they contributed nothing. Wei Ming added that the system publicly recorded how many waves each lord completed, making shameless freeloading visible to the entire town. That social threat motivated more people than the punishment for failure. Jiang Chen was not worried. Between himself and Ying Ying Man, he believed the million-point threshold was already manageable. He used the preparation window to inspect the army, then pulled out the deep-sea lure Chu Weixia had gifted him. The timing finally made sense. A monster wave before the mayor battle could provide energy, loot, and last-minute combat experience. Jiang Chen spent 3 million spirit stones upgrading it into an ultimate deep-sea lure, scaled to his current territory level. Angel Yen sensed the water energy inside and warned that the event could include legendary creatures. Jiang Chen called that a benefit rather than a problem and ordered the entire territory into battle positions. The Empress reported that her epic chest had produced a spear, useful in value, but poorly matched to most of Jiang Chen's main units. He told her to wear the flowing cloud set instead, while every army component assembled under the new lighthouse tenfold spiritual mist. With the territory prepared, Jiang Chen activated the ultimate deep-sea lure over his own base. The space surrounding Jiang Chen's territory began to ripple before turning the deep blue of open ocean. Within seconds, the base looked trapped inside an enormous aquarium, dry land at the center and moving seawater beyond a transparent spatial wall. Dark shapes circled outside, some small enough to identify and others large enough to block the light behind them. The first creature forced its way through the barrier and collapsed onto the ground in a spray of water. It was a level 17 squid, nearly 8 meters tall when supported by its tentacles. Jiang Chen's first useful thought was not danger, but yield. One creature that size could become an uncomfortable amount of outstanding seafood. Then roughly 100 more squids followed, turning the edge of his territory into a forest of wet, angry bodies. A tiger shark broke through next and immediately started thrashing on dry land with impressive teeth and almost no mobility. The attack briefly looked less like a monster wave and more like an extremely violent food delivery. Angel Yen stared at the flopping shark and genuinely asked whether the enemies had come to deliver ingredients. That question stopped being funny when a shadow larger than the buildings moved behind the ocean barrier. A chalk-white human-like face, nearly 10 meters wide, pressed through first, followed by a scaled body extending far back into the water. The system identified it as a level 20 legendary ghost leviathan with roughly 410 combat stars. The creature activated deep sea domain before fully entering. Air inside the territory thickened into a water-like medium, reducing allied speed while allowing sea monsters to move through open space as if swimming. The shark that could barely flop a moment earlier rose into the air and started turning around buildings with complete freedom. Jiang Chen's level 3 lighthouse reacted automatically, covering friendly units with cleansing light that reduced the domain penalty. That defensive investment had already paid for itself before the main legendary monster attacked once. The Empress equipped the flowing cloud set and rose to roughly 450 combat stars, enough to challenge the Leviathan directly. She volunteered to kill it, but Jiang Chen refused because ghost Leviathans were known for fleeing the moment a fight looked unfavorable. Strength was not the problem. Keeping the legendary target inside the territory long enough to finish it was. Jiang Chen ordered the Empress and Yen to stay hidden as finishers, while the Mountain King waited for a stun command. The ocean barrier continued releasing squids, sharks, bottom-feeding demon fish, and 2 epic sea king serpents more than 20 meters long. The serpents attacked the dragons, while lower-quality creatures swarmed toward houses, walls, and anything radiating spiritual energy. Li Yan and the true disciples entered melee first, cutting through squid bodies with blood arc and coordinated sword formations. Regular disciples formed 12-person Sumeru barriers to absorb charges while rotating injured fighters towards safer ground. The Storm Guardians solved most close-range problems with hammers rather than technique, leaving enough shark fragments to make Wang Kai either happy or furious. Jiang Chen observed from the Drunken Immortal Pavilion's upper balcony, using height and the lighthouse vision rather than joining the front line. His army was winning easily, but the Ghost Leviathan kept most of its body behind the barrier and watched its minions die. Jiang Chen recognized the behavior as testing, not fear. He ordered a controlled retreat toward the territory center and allowed outer structures to absorb damage instead of revealing his strongest units too early. Several houses were destroyed, but the retreat produced the reaction he wanted from the invading monsters. The creatures entered the thickest part of spiritual mist and shrouds and started absorbing the territory's tenfold energy density instead of following orders. Jiang Chen's supposedly weak entertainment talent had turned the base into bait more attractive than the lure itself. The Ghost Leviathan tried to recall its army through psychic pressure, but the ultimate deep-sea lure overrode their discipline. Squids, sharks, and demon fish kept inhaling spiritual mist while the boss watched its own subordinates consume the best energy in sight. The Leviathan finally abandoned caution and pushed its entire body through the ocean wall. Bone spikes lined more than 50 meters of blue-scaled body behind the enormous pale face. Jiang Chen kept the army retreating until the Leviathan crossed far enough that escape would require turning around inside his territory. At roughly 200 meters, the creature suddenly stopped and reversed direction anyway. The move confirmed how cautious Ghost Leviathans were. It had likely been testing for the exact ambush Jiang Chen prepared. Jiang Chen could no longer wait without risking the legendary reward, so he released every prepared finisher. The Empress, Angel Yen, and Mountain King Vandal launched toward the target, while 12 goddess warriors formed thunder spears. Jiang Chen also spent his remaining 600,000 energy on emergency levels for the 3 main fighters. Vandal activated Divine Descent in midair and hurled Storm Hammer across the gap before the Leviathan reached the barrier. The hit landed directly on the pale face and stunned the creature long enough for the goddess warriors to release their volley. 12 thunder spears tore through the Leviathan's lower body and opened multiple holes large enough to expose the glowing tissue inside. Jiang Chen sent the Empress ahead to physically block the escape route, while Yen began charging Heavenly Blade Strike. The Empress's flowing cloud bonuses and cloud shadow skill multiplied her speed until she appeared directly between the Leviathan and open ocean. The giant creature charged straight through her position, apparently expecting one human body to fold under several million pounds of mass. The Empress answered with Cloud Ring, forming a 10-meter humanoid shell of condensed energy around herself. When the two collided, both were thrown backward instead of the Empress being crushed. She recovered first, filled the air with cloud swords, and drove those energy blades into the Leviathan's face from multiple angles. Then she detonated every embedded sword at once. The legendary monster's head disappeared inside overlapping explosions, and its massive body crashed down hard enough to shake the territory. Yen was still holding a nearly completed heavenly blade strike and looked genuinely inconvenienced by the dead target. The Empress pointed toward the two epic Sea King serpents still wrestling Jiang Chen's dragons. Yen redirected the enormous sky blade and cut both serpents in half with one swing. Dragon 9 narrowly avoided the edge and immediately complained that the new hero had almost shortened her face. The Leviathan dropped more than 2 million energy, hundreds of thousands of spirit stones, a legendary dock blueprint, and an advanced spirit book. Jiang Chen used the stat book on himself immediately and gained 100 spirit power. The legendary dock went into storage because an ocean exploration building was less urgent inside a landlocked starter town. More importantly, killing the Leviathan canceled deep-sea domain. Every creature that had been swimming through the air abruptly remembered gravity. Manta rays, fish, and other monsters fell across rooftops and roads, while goddess warriors finished anything that survived the landing. The Empress suggested keeping some seafood alive so it would stay fresh, and Yen agreed based on restaurant practices she remembered from a civilization called Earth. Jiang Chen noticed the name, but had no time to chase another cross-dimensional mystery in the middle of cleanup. He instead asked the Empress how she felt after destroying a legendary monster, mostly through borrowed equipment. She admitted the flowing cloud set felt incredible, quietly weakening every earlier argument she made about relying too much on equipment. The total event produced millions of energy, almost 500,000 stones, multiple chests, a legendary blueprint, an epic Sea King item, and warehouses full of monster meat. Processing the sea wave became a territory operation by itself, because monster corpses arrived in quantities far beyond Jiang Chen's normal hunting routes. Legendary farmers did more than butcher meat. Their passive increased usable yield and often raised harvested material quality by one tier. That meant a dead monster could become better food, leather, organs, scales, and alchemical ingredients than another lord would obtain from the same corpse. Jiang Chen therefore cared about storage and processing speed almost as much as the kill rewards. The Drunken Immortal Pavilion turned those improved ingredients into a second layer of value through Divine Chef's blessing. Ordinary troops gained permanent or long-duration stat improvements simply by eating meals Jiang Chen's territory could now produce repeatedly. Wang Kai and the Epic Chef reacted to the seafood stock like craftsmen handed a warehouse of rare experimental materials. The chef's loyalty rose because Jiang Chen was not merely paying wages, he was giving him ingredients most the cooks would never see in a lifetime. One feast combined several sea monsters into a dish whose stat gains reached double digits for weaker diners. That made food part of military recovery rather than decorative luxury. Jiang Chen also kept some creatures alive after the Empress's suggestion, using them as fresh inventory instead of wasting valuable bodies to spoilage. The legendary dock blueprint remained low priority only because geography limited immediate use. If the territory later reached an ocean region, the same blueprint could open another exploration path without needing to hunt for the structure again. Jiang Chen's habit was to store future options rather than sell them cheaply, simply because they lacked present value. The two new legendary farmers hired for processing also strengthened every later harvest and butchering event, so the sea wave permanently expanded his economy. By the time cleanup finished, the event had paid in combat experience, energy, raw materials, food, blueprints, stat growth, and new workers. That multi-layer return was why Jiang Chen had delayed using the lure until his territory reached level 3. Using it earlier would have produced a smaller wave at a time when his army, storage, kitchen, and farmers could not extract the same value. The decision looked like greed from the outside, but the timing was exactly what made the monster invasion profitable rather than merely survivable. Jiang Chen entered the domain-breaking battle with an army stronger from the fight and an economy richer from everything left on the ground. Jiang Chen hired 2 additional legendary farmers simply to process the quantity before valuable materials spoiled. Wang Kai's loyalty approached maximum when he saw the new ingredient supply, and the Epic Chef immediately began planning higher-tier dishes. Dinner included a sea monster recipe strong enough to raise several stats by double digits for some diners. Jiang Chen converted almost every remaining energy point into army levels before the mayor battle. All 12 goddess warriors reached level 10, followed by all 9 celestial maidens. The remaining dragons were pushed to level 10 as well, eliminating the uneven level spread across his legendary air units. Regular celestial sound disciples rose to level 6, trading the last of the deep-sea windfall for more reliable battlefield depth. By late evening, only 79 local lords had reached level 3, so the domain-breaking battle could not start that night. Jiang Chen welcomed the delay and ordered everyone to rest rather than waste strength hunting one more round of monsters. At 11:42, the 100th lord finally qualified, and the Heavenly Tao scheduled the battle for 9 the next morning. Jiang Chen sent one territory-wide instruction: sleep now, because the next fight would decide the mayor's seat key and the 100 million stone wager. Morning arrived with every qualified lord preparing troops, healing supplies, and whatever reputation they hoped to preserve. At exactly 100 golden pillars descended and transported the qualified territories to different border positions. Jiang Chen materialized in Canyon 88, a narrow passage roughly 200 meters wide between sheer cliffs. His 30,000 square meter territory sealed the canyon like a plug, forcing every enemy wave to approach through one obvious direction. The Level 3 lighthouse immediately revealed, about 1,300 meters through the battlefield fog. Most competitors could barely see beyond their walls, while Jiang Chen could track formations long before they entered tower range. The Empress arranged disciples into defensive lines, and again told Jiang Chen to stay away from the front. He accepted without pride and moved to the Drunken Immortal Pavilion's balcony with Angel Yen and Zizai Tian. The view covered the canyon, the seats were comfortable, and the kitchen remained close enough that his command post had better service than most hotels. The shared battle chat was already filling with fear from lords who had barely reached level 3 and knew their armies were underdeveloped. Mu Qingsh advised everyone to survive as many early waves as possible instead of sacrificing troops for pride. 1 minute before contact, the canyon fog moved and the first demon force appeared. Hundreds of small black demons ran in front, each with a split almost to the ears. Behind them walked level 8 elite fire ghouls with flames gathering around their hands. Jiang Chen classified the enemy as dangerous but simple, which he preferred over intelligent devil species capable of planning around defenses. Angel Yen tensed the moment she saw demons, every muscle preparing for a charge even though Jiang Chen had not issued an order. He reminded her that the first wave was low level and told her to sit. Yen obeyed but explained that fighting demonic creatures had been instinctive for thousands of years under her civilization's justice doctrine. Jiang Chen recognized the reference to Holy Kaisa and improvised another piece of apparently profound knowledge from Yen's own background. He praised Kaisa's long war against tyranny and evil gods, which raised Yen's affection because she believed he understood her civilization deeply. When Yen asked whether Kaisa might ever return, Jiang Chen avoided promising anything and said the universe contained worlds capable of possibilities neither of them could rule out. That answer raised her affection again, bringing the bond very close to maximum without Jiang Chen having proved a single cosmological theory. The demons crossed the 300-meter mark before the conversation could continue. 10 level 3 Wrath of Heaven towers locked onto the densest formations simultaneously. Dark red fireballs arched over the walls and detonated in repeated bursts, erasing most of the front wave before soldiers had to move. The towers shifted to rapid fire afterward and kept launching smaller attacks into the survivors. Not one demon reached the defensive line. The disciples stood on the wall with weapons ready, and no target left, producing an awkward first victory in a battle everyone had feared overnight. The system announced Wave 1 cleared and scheduled a 10-minute rest before Wave 2. Jiang Chen had no interest in waiting while his automated defenses were fresh, so he activated 2 war drums. Each drum removed 5 minutes from the next arrival timer, bringing Wave 2 forward immediately. The second force contained more demons at slightly higher levels, but the Wrath of Heaven towers erased them with almost the same efficiency. The shared channel finally noticed that Jiang Chen had cleared Wave 1 before some competitors had even made first contact. Wei Ming complained that his own turtle demons were still crawling toward his walls when Jiang Chen's next notification appeared. Most lords assumed Jiang Chen's created troops were long-range units rushing the spawn edge. The actual answer, high-level defense towers built from materials rookies should not possess, was too far outside their assumptions to guess. Jiang Chen used the war drums again and cleared another wave without deploying his army. Ying Man interpreted the pace as reckless and refused Meng Tian's suggestion to imitate it. She believed Jiang Chen would eventually exhaust his troops by skipping recovery windows. Her strategic caution would have made sense if Jiang Chen's troops had actually been fighting. Instead, his soldiers watched the towers turn the canyon into a repeating fireworks display. Wave 3 disappeared, then Wave 4, then Wave 5, while worried friends kept messaging Jiang Chen to slow down. Chu Weixia, Tu Shanyaya, and even Mu Qingshan feared that losing their strongest lord early could doom the town's combined score. Jiang Chen thanked them, but did not explain that his army still had nearly full energy. After about half an hour, 10 waves were cleared, and Jiang Chen held roughly 20,000 personal points. His soldiers had contributed almost nothing because automated towers still handled every enemy before the walls. The battle chat still believed those early clears proved celestial sound disciples were ranged specialists with impossible stamina. The war drums created another advantage most viewers of the battle channel misunderstood. Skipping the rest period did not increase enemy strength by itself. It only punished a lord, whose troops actually needed those minutes to recover. Jiang Chen's first waves were being cleared by towers powered from territory infrastructure, so the cost of accelerating them was minimal. Every saved 10-minute interval also meant more waves completed before weaker competitors finished their early fights. That mattered because the mayor score counted kills, not how stylishly a lord preserved the official schedule. Yingman's decision not to copy him was strategically sound with her own army. Her epic troops needed healing, formation repair, and command recovery between waves, so war drums would have converted speed into unnecessary casualties. The same tool therefore produced opposite value depending on the territory using it. Regional spectators never saw that difference and assumed Jiang Chen was either brilliant or suicidal. Xu Weixia repeatedly asked him to slow down because her own experience told her high-tier troops still required recovery after sustained combat. Mu Qingxuan was even more direct and warned that the entire town needed Jiang Chen alive more than it needed an early scoreboard lead. Jiang Chen accepted their concern without revealing the towers because he preferred allies underestimating his infrastructure to enemies studying it. When level 22 demons finally survived tower range, he did not increase firepower blindly. Instead, he used the first breakthrough as a live readiness test for the true disciples. Their 5-minute clear confirmed the trial tower factory had produced troops capable of fighting above the threats now reaching the walls. Later waves let Jiang Chen rotate goddess warriors, dragons, and celestial maidens separately, so no single elite group burned through all its spirit energy. That rotation also gave him real data before the legendary stage, rather than discovering unit weaknesses against the final boss. The goddess warriors remained the strongest burst formation at short duration. Dragons controlled open space and mass targets, but needed room to maneuver their bodies. Celestial maidens combined defense and technique more smoothly, while true disciples offered numbers without dropping to low troop quality. The Mountain King and Storm Guardians were durable enough to anchor breaches, even if Jiang Chen considered them inefficient long-term investments. By Wave 20, the army had effectively completed a combined arms exercise under real combat pressure. The town success threshold arriving early was therefore not only a reward, it proved Jiang Chen's military system could sustain repeated waves without collapsing. That information made him far more comfortable continuing for the mayor's seat after other lords quit. He was no longer gambling that the next wave would break his territory. He was measuring how much profit remained before the risk finally caught up. Wei Ming used Jiang Chen's pace to shame weaker lords into contributing instead of hiding behind the town's strongest players. The motivation helped, but Wave 11 finally sent enemies capable of exposing the real limits of Jiang Chen's tower line. Level 22 demons advanced behind 3 level 26 hellfire monsters with rare quality and strong fire resistance. The towers burned the lesser demons. Yet the resistant elites crossed the bombardment zone and reached the wall alive. Jiang Chen finally deployed 40 epic true disciples. They vaulted over the defenses, trapped the hellfire monsters with overlapping Great Sumeru control, and killed the entire surviving formation within minutes. The walls remained untouched, and Jiang Chen began using later waves as controlled tests for different troop groups. Wave 12 went to Goddess Warriors, supported by Storm Guardians and Mountain King Vandal. Wave 13 gave the dragons room to attack from above, while Wave 14 showcased the Celestial Maidens and their refined technique combinations. Each deployment revealed a different strength, without exhausting the full army at once. The shared channel celebrated the repeated clears, because Jiang Chen's score was covering lords who had already dropped out. Wei Ming reposted score updates to the regional channel, so even people outside the battle followed Jiang Chen's progression wave by wave. More participants failed after Wave 5 or 6, leaving the combined million-point requirement increasingly dependent on the top group. By Wave 20, the Empress personally erased a level 30 outstanding Berserker demon that had forced its way through every outer defense. Hours of fighting filled the canyon with corpses, broken armor, and blackened stone, while Jiang Chen's personal score climbed near 150,000. He checked the town total and found it just below 1 million, with only 19 lords still active. Xu Weixia announced that she was finishing another wave and expected the survival threshold to be reached soon. Tushan Yaya had invented her own recovery tactic by leading a single remaining monster around her territory instead of killing it immediately. The system counted her current wave as active, giving tired troops time to recover before she triggered the next one. Jiang Chen respected the method because it was shameless, legal, and mathematically useful. Almost together, Xu Weixia cleared her 12th wave, and Yingman cleared her 15th. Combined score passed 1 million, and the domain-breaking battle registered the town as successful. Every participant received 10 points to all core stats, while the town earned an additional bonus for being first in the county to break through. Town 10,086 had beaten roughly 1,000 neighboring towns to the milestone. The celebration barely started before a second announcement formalized the individual mayor contest. The highest personal score would become Town Lord and receive 50 additional points to all stats plus 5 luck points. Luck affected territory development, resource quality, and rare events, making those 5 points worth far more than a simple combat number. Some lords complained that the mayor condition appeared too late for them to plan around it. Several quit after the town's success reward was secured, unwilling to spend more troops chasing a title they could not win. The field eventually narrowed to Jiang Chen, Ying Man, Chu Wuxia, and a small handful of stubborn competitors. Jiang Chen had no reason to stop because each new wave still produced energy, and the mayor's seat carried his 100 million stone bet. He called Ying Man during a combat lull and asked for 50 million stones in advance. She reacted exactly as expected and accused him of celebrating before victory was decided. Jiang Chen pointed out that she had promised 100 million if he won the bet. If she won, her earlier vassal offer also included a 100 million signing payment. From Jiang Chen's preferred accounting perspective, money reached him in either outcome, so early payment looked perfectly logical. Ying Man's dragon bloodline visibly reacted to the argument, while the ancient generals behind her seemed delighted that Jiang Chen could make her angry so efficiently. She refused the advance and ended the call before he could improve the mathematics further. Jiang Chen returned to the battlefield and continued until Wave 28, while Ying Man stalled several waves behind. Her elite imperial troops were stronger than almost every normal rookie army, but repeated waves were draining healing items and hero stamina. During Wave 26, Ying Man finally stopped conserving resources and ordered every remaining skill into one overwhelming push. Her forces destroyed the wave, then collapsed from the effort with almost nothing left for another round. Shortly afterward, Jiang Chen's account received 110 million spirit stones. The original wager covered 100 million. The extra 10 million was an information fee because Ying Man wanted to understand the loss. Jiang Chen accepted immediately and turned the video feed toward 12 legendary dragons circling his territory. Ying Man froze when she realized the creatures were not one rare summon but a complete legendary squad. Jiang Chen allowed her to treat the dragons as his hidden trump card because that explanation protected far more dangerous secrets. Angel Yen alone had already reached a level where Jiang Chen considered her stronger than the entire dragon squad in direct combat. Ying Man offered another 10 million if Jiang Chen would start calling her big sister. He escaped the proposal by claiming Wave 29 had started, deciding some money came with costs even he was not ready to price. The moment the call ended, Jiang Chen checked the 9-digit account balance more than once. He had never controlled anything close to that amount before entering the battlefield, and the sight still affected him more than any noble title. The system then confirmed Jiang Chen as Town Lord. The position unlocked an additional hero slot, faster construction, improved resource collection, personal teleportation privileges, and authority to name the town. Jiang Chen opened town chat and asked everyone to submit naming ideas rather than pretend he had prepared a grand civic vision. Some players immediately asked for official positions, while others admitted they had fought much harder than necessary after seeing Jiang Chen and Ying Man carry the score. Wave 29 still approached, so Jiang Chen told the Empress to delay the clear and buy him construction time. He pulled the spring blueprint from storage because the 100 million stone problem had just solved itself. The legendary Fountain of Life required life stones, thunderstruck wood, origin gold, and a material bill around 45 million stones before construction. Jiang Chen considered that cost almost reasonable now, a dangerous psychological change caused by one rich rival. Before crafting the materials, he spent 6 million energy pushing roughly 200 disciples toward level 9. Large enemy waves required bodies across a wide defense line, and Jiang Chen refused to let spectacular heroes become a substitute for troop depth. While he prepared the building, the county reacted to Town 10,086, becoming the first breakthrough settlement. The county race introduced a scale Jiang Chen had mostly ignored while concentrating on one town. Town 10,086 was only one settlement among roughly 1,000 competing under the same county structure. Breaking through first gave them visibility, but it also painted a target on every later ranking. In Town 10,010, Zhu Yexing publicly invoked his descent from an ancient prince and promised his followers they would recover first place. His speech sounded impressive, but Jiang Chen's town had already banked the earliest bonuses those rivals could no longer retroactively claim. Another cluster around Town 10,222 contained hundreds of Cherry Blossom Nation players, coordinating across neighboring towns. Their leadership assumed numerical control of so many settlements would eventually overwhelm isolated Dragon Nation groups. From Blue Star, Luwashi explained that the map distribution was not random enough to ignore real geography. Cities near foreign regions in the real world often produced beginner towns near those same national competitors inside the battlefield. That was why EC City's rookies faced a county with unusually dense cherry blossom and south stick representation. The beginner barrier prevented an immediate full-scale war, but later county systems would remove more of those protections. Some Dragon Nation rookies saw the demographics and decided relocation was safer than building in a future frontline county. City transfer tokens existed for exactly that kind of strategic retreat, though using one meant abandoning local bonuses and relationships. Luwashi gave Chu Weixia such a token because a mother could believe in Jiang Chen and still prepare for worst-case scenarios. Chu Weixia treated the token as insurance rather than a plan and insisted her town was stronger than the population numbers suggested. Ying Man's imperial background also changed the equation because foreign factions would not be fighting only random commoners if they escalated too far. Jiang Chen's global troop creation announcement added a second reason outsiders might target Town 10,086 early. A created outstanding troop line was valuable enough that enemies could justify aggression even without national rivalry. That threat made the town lord position more meaningful than the 100 million stone bet that helped Jiang Chen win it. As mayor, he now held faster construction, resource bonuses, and naming authority, but he also became the obvious person other towns would blame for his settlement's growth. Jiang Chen did not suddenly become patriotic or political because of the title. His immediate response remained practical. Strengthen the territory until outside factions found invasion more expensive than cooperation. The Fountain of Life, legendary hero, improved towers, and renewable epic troops all served that logic without requiring speeches about leadership. If frightened lords still chose to leave, Jiang Shehen preferred they do it voluntarily rather than become weak links who resented being trapped. The county problem therefore sat in the background as a future strategic pressure, while Abisto's incoming wave remained the immediate battlefield threat. In another town, a descendant of an ancient prince publicly promised to lead his own people to county first place, despite already being behind. More seriously, hundreds of local towns were controlled by Cherry Blossom Nation rookies, who planned to dominate the wider county ranking through numbers. Blue Star geography had placed Dragon Nation settlements close to rival countries, so those rival populations also entered nearby battlefield regions. Luwashi warned Chu Weixia that the county balance could become hostile once beginner protections weakened. Chu Weixia remained confident because Jiang Chen and Ying Man had already turned their own town into the strongest local example. Her mother still gave her a city transfer token as emergency insurance if the county war became impossible to hold. Jiang Chen heard none of those conversations while converting the required materials and feeding money into the Fountain of Life blueprint. He built the legendary spring, paid for instant completion, and pushed it directly to level 3. The process consumed roughly 78 million spirit stones and another 1,300,000 energy. When the light faded, a 10-meter spring surrounded by white stone walls sat inside the territory with luminous green water filling the basin. Life energy around the structure was so dense that wounded soldiers could feel recovery before stepping near the edge. The level 3 Fountain of Life rapidly restored wounds, spirit energy, and even soul damage to units within its effective area. More importantly, the structure could revive dead units up to 4 times per day. Death inside Jiang Chen's home territory had just changed from irreversible disaster into a limited resource problem. The spring also produced 1 bottle of life essence and 10 bottles of life water each day. Life essence could improve a unit's innate quality without normal energy leveling, making the daily output a strategic treasure by itself. Jiang Chen received the first emerald bottle and drank it before anyone could argue for a more cautious test subject. His body immediately began expelling dark impurities in a marrow-cleansing reaction, far less painful than stories had led him to expect. The transformation raised Jiang Chen's personal talent quality to C rank and pushed his physical stats well beyond what an ordinary lord should possess. His body score reached around 248, even before equipment. Jiang Chen appreciated becoming harder to kill, but the improvement did not tempt him toward frontline heroics. He still considered himself the commander, not the expendable weapon. The Empress soon reported 5 injured disciples, including one whose arm had been torn off by a demon. Jiang Chen moved them inside the spring's healing range as the first practical test. Spirit energy refilled, exhaustion disappeared, wounds closed, and the missing arm regenerated while everyone watched. The injured disciple flexed the restored limb, picked up her sword, and looked ready to return to battle immediately. The Empress's affection rose again because Jiang Chen had converted an expensive construction project into direct survival for her people. With a reliable recovery point behind the walls, Jiang Chen changed tactics from conservation to controlled aggression. He raised all 20 dwarf rocketeers to level 20 for another major energy payment. Their first maximum level target arrived with Wave 33. Thousands of demons filled the canyon behind 6 armed snake creatures, berserkers, fire monsters, and a level 34 Balrog flame demon. Angel Yen asked to join the fight, but Jiang Chen chose artillery first because the enemy mass was trapped inside a narrow approach. The Rocketeers entered overload and spent 30 seconds creating 20 enormous spirit rockets. Each projectile grew to several meters long before launching above the canyon in a single coordinated barrage. The demon formation recognized the threat and tried to scatter, but sheer cliffs and its own numbers left almost nowhere to move. 20 explosions rolled down the canyon and erased thousands of lower-tier enemies before the shockwave reached Jiang Chen's walls. The Balrog survived the bombardment, damaged but still charging. The Empress intercepted with the flowing Cloud Set and chained Cloud Shadow, Cloud Ring, and Cloud Sword without pausing for spirit conservation. 5 seconds later, the Balrog had been cut apart, and the Empress barely looked tired because the Fountain of Life could refill her afterward. Jiang Chen noticed she had almost completely stopped, using the sect technique she once defended so proudly. Legendary equipment had converted the Empress into an enthusiastic believer in borrowed power faster than debate ever could. From Wave 35 onward, Jiang Chen settled into a brutal routine with actual strategic layers. Rocketeers softened massed enemies, Wrath of Heaven towers removed weakened survivors, and mobile troops destroyed anything still capable of reaching the walls. The spring then restored injured units and spirit reserves before the next accelerated wave. That cycle carried Jiang Chen through Wave 44 and pushed his personal score toward 2 million. The county ranking still demanded more, so he kept fighting instead of ending with a safe local victory. After Wave 44, the system issued a direct warning that his resistance had enraged Demon Overlord Abisto. Jiang Chen finally smiled at the first promise of a legendary enemy inside the domain-breaking battle. The same wave also produced Jiang Chen's first actual death among the Celestial Sound ranks. One disciple was recovered with most of her body intact and moved into the Fountain of Life's radius. About a minute later, she opened her eyes again. The entire territory erupted because every soldier now had proof that the spring's resurrection effect was real rather than a line of system text. Loyalty rose sharply across the army, especially among troops expected to keep fighting waves that could kill them. For the first time, Jiang Chen could honestly tell his soldiers that death on defense did not always mean the end. Chu Weixia video called soon after the resurrection demonstration, with Ying Ying Man leaning into the same frame. Their concern was larger than the current demon wave. Rival national factions controlled a huge share of Xinjiang County's nearby towns. Some Dragon Nation rookies were already preparing city transfer tokens and talking about abandoning the region before county competition became violent. Jiang Chen refused to pressure anyone into staying and told them the exit was open for people who wanted safety elsewhere. Privately, he considered leaving a poor decision because Town 10,086 had accumulated valuable luck and first clear bonuses. His own score passed 3.5 million while they talked, which looked sufficient for the county lead under current information. Jiang Chen still refused to stop because Abisto was coming, and a legendary enemy represented loot he would regret abandoning. The new Town Lord Authority had opened a third hero slot, and the legendary hero token from Arthas was still waiting in storage. Jiang Chen activated it before the final wave could arrive. A woman stepped through wearing blue robes, a silver mat, a straw hat, and a sword carried in the posture of a wandering swordsman. Her attempt to present as male was not especially convincing, but her confusion about the battlefield was genuine. She identified herself as Li Hani, known in her world as the Snow Moon Sword Immortal. Her starting combat power looked modest beside the Empress and Yen until Jiang Chen saw the passive shaping every future attack. Sword Will was an A-rank ability that multiplied the power of sword techniques by roughly 2.4 without increasing their normal energy cost. A simple low-rank slash in Li Hani's hands could therefore hit like a technique several tiers above its written grade. Jiang Chen immediately understood that the correct investment was not another army buff, but one exceptional sword and enough levels to use it. Li Hani asked how far he could raise her and suggested level 10, as if that were already generous. Jiang Chen considered the number insulting with a legendary demon incoming. He spent roughly 7,800,000 energy, pushing all 3 legendary heroes to level 20. The Empress passed 700 combat stars, Yen rose above 600, and Li Hani reached around 450 before specialized equipment. Jiang Chen then upgraded a basic iron sword through his available paths until it became the level 20 legendary Deathless Sword. The weapon cost around 6 million spirit stones and could release a rank sword blasts on top of its physical edge. Li Hani initially refused because the blade surpassed even the famous weapon associated with her own family. Jiang Chen answered with the most practical argument possible. Nobody in the territory used a sword better than she did. She accepted, and her favorability rose sharply because Jiang Chen had handed her the strongest tool without demanding ceremony first. Wave 45 arrived before the conversation could become sentimental. The canyon fog rolled apart around a demon, large enough to rival Jiang Chen's buildings, covered in bone spikes and dragging a tail that cracked stone. 8 epic flame demons followed behind it with a full supporting army. The system identified the leader as a Beasto, a level 35 golden legendary demon overlord, with roughly 1,125 combat stars. Jiang Chen felt the threat immediately, then relaxed slightly after recognizing the creature as a flame demon rather than a space-manipulating greater demon. Abisto was stronger than every individual hero Jiang Chen owned, but its power set was direct enough to plan around. Jiang Chen's assigned the Empress and Angel Yin to contain the boss, while Li Hani cleared the epic escorts and dangerous lesser troops. He also distributed the day's life water production, so the heroes could restore spirit energy outside the spring's fixed range. Abisto still found time to announce that no Blue Star rookie in 10,000 years had forced him onto the battlefield this early. Jiang Chen let the monologue finish, only because interrupting a legendary demon before learning its skill pattern would gain nothing. Abisto raised one hand and activated Meteor Hell. The sky turned blood red before hundreds of flaming rocks began falling toward the entire territory. Jiang Chen abandoned his comfortable chair and ordered every available defender to protect the base instead of chasing kills. Yen expanded wormhole defense across the sky while the Empress formed a massive cloud ring body and physically redirected incoming meteors. Li Hani used a wide spiritual flower and sword formation to catch projectiles that slipped between the two legendary defenses. Dragons and goddess warriors struck the remaining meteors before they could reach houses, towers, or the Fountain of Life. Most of the barrage was neutralized, but several impacts reached open ground. Each meteor that landed transformed into a 5-meter fire monster, revealing Meteor Hell as a combined attack, terrain pressure, and summoning spell. Abisto then drove his enormous sword forward and released the rest of the demon army through the canyon fog. His command aura strengthened even ordinary demons enough that Jiang Chen's Rocketeer barrage no longer erased the front line cleanly. Yen met Abisto's sword and was launched backward despite using the full strength of her barrier. The Empress followed with one of her strongest attacks, opened a wound in his chest, and watched Hellfire close it almost immediately. Abisto understood the exchange and announced his preferred strategy: survive until their expensive shields emptied their spirit reserves. On normal terms, that plan was correct because his passive fire recovery cost far less than the hero's defensive skills. Then Yen drank 1 bottle of life water and restored the energy Abisto had spent minutes trying to drain. The Empress did the same after her own reserves fell. For the first time, Abisto reacted as if Jiang Chen had violated an unwritten rule of the duel. Jiang Chen had no sympathy. The Fountain of Life was part of his territory, and nobody had promised the demon fair resource management. While the boss remained tied down, Li Hani started reducing the army with frightening precision. One invisible sword split a level 35 epic flame demon before it could complete its attack. A sequence of shorter motions decapitated multiple 6-armed snake demons with almost no wasted movement. Sword Will made every ordinary technique look as if a far more expensive skill had been cast. Even with her efficiency, the density of the wave produced deaths among Jiang Chen's troops. Captain Cynthia was killed while taking down an epic demon that broke toward the inner territory. Jiang Chen ordered a full-price resurrection without hesitation and spent 100,000 energy through the Fountain of Life. Cynthia returned in fighting condition, saluted, and went straight back to the wall she had died defending. That was the strategic difference Abisto could not copy. Demon casualties remained permanent while Jiang Chen could reverse selected losses. 10 more minutes of attrition destroyed the last major escort and freed Li Hani to join the legendary boss fight. Abisto finally noticed the Fountain of Life and recognized the structure as the legendary spring associated with World Tree myths. The discovery came too late to change anything, because Li Hani's deathless sword cut through his defenses and left gray energy clinging to the wound. That effect interfered with the Hellfire regeneration Abisto had relied on since the first exchange. The Empress and Yen kept pressure on his front while Li Hani repeatedly opened wounds. His body could no longer close for free. Abisto's fire dimmed, his movement slowed, and the stamina advantage he had counted on disappeared. The three heroes spent another 2 minutes breaking down a boss that had entered the canyon with more than 1,000 combat stars. When the final opening appeared, a concentrated divine sword strike tore through a beasto before he could launch another meteor hell. The demon overlord died inside Jiang Chen's territory, ending Wave 45 and leaving the strongest loot pile of the battle behind. The reward included roughly 7 million energy, 1 million spirit stones, a high-level stat book, and the Meteor Hell skill book. Jiang Chen now possessed the same legendary battlefield spell that had forced his entire army into emergency defense moments earlier. The most valuable drop was an A-rank territory advancement talisman. Anything above epic quality was normally blocked from being carried into the rookie battlefield from Blue Star. That restriction was why even Ying Ying Man, despite imperial wealth, had entered with only a B-rank Lord talent. Jiang Chen had already upgraded his territory talent to C rank and gained tenfold spiritual density from the result. Now a legendary grade advancement item had fallen directly inside the battlefield, bypassing the restriction completely. He stared at the A-rank talisman and started laughing because the next territory evolution was no longer a theory or a distant luxury. The rookie who began this stretch, surrounded by rich heirs, now controlled a town, 3 legendary heroes, revival infrastructure, created troops, and a path toward an A-rank territory talent. For Jiang Chen, the best part was not the reputation surrounding any of it. The new talisman was simply the next upgrade already waiting in his hand.